Oh wow, we actually reached the end of the audio. I mean, that's the first.
Yes. I don't know actually. Maybe. Yeah.
How's my audio? My audio's good, everyone. We get thumbs up.
I can hear you, but I'm next to you. I'm sitting right next to you virtually,
right.
So I don't know that would make any kind of test.
Hey, Randall, can you hear me?
I think I can.
It's always the wrong way, right?
Oh, other way. Think I can. Wrong direction.
Oh dear, like this is the fun we get to. How is everyone?
Yes.
Everyone should be good, I hope.
Yes.
Can't believe how much years gone already.
We have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started, which is always nice. As long as you guys ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, the more
We're
questions,
expecting a question-driven show today. So ask your favorite questions. Please precede them with Q: in the chat. That way I can see them and flag them so that Simon can take a look at whether to answer it or not.
Get them up on the stream. So we've got a few little housekeeping things to get into. So we'll just jump straight into those and we'll introduce ourselves. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
So welcome to Humpday. My name's Simon Lightfoot. I'm a Flutter community leader and CTO at DevAngels London. And you can follow me on Twitter at DevAngels London. Scott is not with us at the moment. He may be able to join us later. We'll see. And Randall, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Randall Schwartz. I've been in the computer industry for 45 years now. I've been a Google GDE. That's actually redundant, but whatever. That's like an ATM machine. A Google GDE since Flutter. They started handing out. In fact, even before they started handing out Flutter GDEs. So, and in fact, when we get my video back up, I'll show you that I'm wearing the very exclusive club vest that only the experts get to have. So I'm wearing that. I'll be watching the chat room for your questions. Please put Q: in front of them so that they're easy for me to spot, because sometimes I'm chatting with Simon and stuff and we don't always see that. And other than that, I'm full-time Flutter. Got a really interesting client right now that I'm working as much as I can for. And I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm about 8 hours away time zone-wise from Simon on the other side of the pond.
And yeah, we'll just go through a brief couple of do's and don'ts. So be nice and respectful and constructive whilst interacting in the YouTube live chat. Don't post anything adult, rude, or offensive. And do not advertise or promote anything. These are ways to get instantly banned, or if not muted, but definitely probably banned. And don't spam the same thing over and over again. We see the questions, we'll mark the questions. It's fine if you're trying to post a correction or something, but yeah, don't just it's not great for everyone because it's hard to see everyone's individual questions otherwise. And then any harassment not tolerated, and we do share a ban lists. And any failing to do so will get you banned. But yeah, on a better note, hey, welcome back to the stream. So,
yes, we are here.
Humpday.
Yep. We try to do a show every week. Occasionally we miss, but we're pretty good at least pulling something together. This week we had no guests lined up, so we are the guests this week. So, but between Simon and me, we at least share a brain, so I think we'll probably be okay.
Am I left brain and your right brain, or are you right brain and left brain?
Yeah, and we're getting questions in already, but
that's nice.
Nothing else, probably nothing else to say before we get started, really.
I was playing around with some. Do you know what? One thing like it's kind of weird, right? When you understand some of the state management stuff, I was talking about state management just briefly for a second because I had my first real proper go at Riverpod this week.
Ooh, yay!
Because I've looked at it, I understand how it works. I've seen some guides, I've spoken to a few people about it. So it's not like it's foreign to me. The concepts, conceptually how the global system works and how it all kind of constructively works under the hood makes sense to me. So it's not like, but I just didn't need it for any project, and then I was just invited to work on some stuff in a project, and it was using Riverpod, so I got to experience it firsthand, and it's really quite nice. I like it. I think it's a case of there's also a sort of a certain amount of scope, right, in terms of like you put your globals in a file, right, and then they need to, and it's about import. Don't just put all of your providers in one massive file, right? Like you want to essentially treat those files with your providers, your global, your providers as
I usually put them
as a unit. Does that kind of make sense? Like you could put them in a class, right? You don't have to be global.
I usually put them in a file that is adjacent to any notifier that they're wrapping, and maybe if it's sort of like wrapping API calls, like you've got a feature provider that's going to go out and get a website hit. I put all that in the same file because those are all really tightly coupled. If you're going to change one, you're probably going to change the others. So
that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and then you only have to include that. You only have to import that if you're using that particular feature on this particular screen.
I like that. I've seen it done a few different ways, and I'm like, you can make one massive file with all your connections for your things, but then like what you've just done is you've just lumped all of your concern into one place, right? And it's just
you're almost guaranteed to have merge conflicts then too, because other people are going to be editing other parts of that file. Because if all the providers go in one place, anytime anybody needs a new provider, now that's out of sync with everybody else's version. Git does a pretty good job, but I've been watching Git fail over the last couple of days as I do a great renaming of all sorts of files in different places.
I can give you a really good recommendation. So there's a tool that I use so you know the way you can have external merge tools to Git, right?
Right.
So you Git lets you set up like one of its Git config variables which says this is the external merge tool, and you can go ahead and use this, and it will take over when you want to do, like when you have merge conflicts and you want to resolve it, it will jump in this place. Well, there's a tool that I use called Beyond Compare. I don't know if it has a Mac or version. I use the Windows version, but I'm not joking. It does this asynchronous compare, but it knows the formatting of source code. So it knows about white space at the beginning of a line. It knows the indentation. So it doesn't just say this line has changed. It knows that those two are the same line, and like something to do with the indentation changes. And it's really, really clever. And I'm not joking. bunch of merge conflicts you might have with something. You go in there, you open it up, and it instantly fixes and identifies all the things you should do. And you just go through visually, make sure they're correct, and then mark them as not being a conflict anymore. Hit save, and you're done. Like no thinking whatsoever. Really good. I use it all the time.
I think git merge and git rebase can also be told to ignore white space in terms of working out definitions.
Well, it wasn't just that. I'm just using that as an example. Yeah. It understands the nature of source code, and it does a really good three-way merge in there as well. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Those three-way merges, those are the merges to get.
Joy's weird. It's like so the other day, on a project we had a branch for. Two branches have been developed in tandem for a long period of time for business reasons, and they finally had to be merged together. So I've been trying to get them to keep them up to date and together. And it's then suddenly you get this kind of point where you're just like, no, you just have to bite the bullet. There's a point now where we need to get these two things to come together, and they're the times when you're just like, how can I do this with the least amount of problems as possible, right? And one of the interesting things that's kind of interesting is we get, I mean, we're going off the tangent here, but we get you can squash all your files, right? But then they get given the same date. So when you're doing this merge conflicts, right? You can be based on dates. You know that one thing came after another one, and not before another one, right? So so it knows which way to resolve the conflict. And some other things like that can also be kind of interesting. So you end up, and you also don't want to, if you're doing rebasing, right? What you don't want to be doing is having to deal with how to resolve conflicts like on each commit that you're rebasing on top of or something like that. So ideally you want to squash everything you'll do one branch and then just rebase that as one commit on top. You lose your history and you have that problem with the dates, but then at least you don't have to resolve conflicts on every commit or over and over again if there's longer history.
Right. Well, there's re that sort of does that too. But
I mean, in truthfulness, you kind of if you're doing rebasing, the idea is that every day you're keeping your branches up to date with develop.
One would hope. Yes. Are we actually going to mark that first question answered, or should we actually answer the literally?
Let's bring it up. So we were talking about. Oh,
there we go. Beginners. Now that's a qualifier there. So I don't know that Riverpod is actually for beginners. I think the first one, of course, is set state. Understand how set state works, and you'll be light years ahead of people who don't.
I think the key here, right, is I actually experienced something the other day that kind of caught me out. It was one of those build problems that I haven't experienced in a long time, and it kind of surprised me. Which this is good. I like it when something like that happens because you learn something new, right? And this was I had a builder, just you have a builder with a build function that returns a widget, just standard builder thing. And the outside, I did set state on the outside class, and obviously that built, but then it kept the widget on the inside because its state hadn't changed. So it didn't have to rebuild that widget.
Right.
Which kind of just blew my mind a little bit there. I was just like, of course it didn't. I did it a separate way. You can use it in that situation. You'd use a state field builder if you want to do it internally, and have a builder that you can again market state. But there's that. I think taken to the moon's question here. Understanding the declarative UI and the way that the widgets react and how that inherit essentially dependencies between widgets work is more of the puzzle that you need to understand. So I think print statements, see what when you rebuild one state on one thing, what rebuilds, how it's rebuilt. If I separate that into a different widget, learn it firsthand if you're that kind of learner, right? Just play around with things. When it comes to state management, we do say this every single time. It's confused with architecture. So you have architecture, which is more about how you lay out your file system, how you lay out the files of your project, or you've got architecture as in how your data moves around your app and how you want to do things. And then you have state management, which is kind of a gray area in between. It's more about updating the UI state, updating the UI based on the state of the app, right? And it all gets kind of muddled together. So there's no real good spot to begin. It's a complicated topic because it covers a wide area. So I would go looking into very specific things. And I think choose yourself as a beginner, choose yourself a simple app that I do say this quite often, and I don't want to repeat myself, but choose a target, right? Choose like a simple app. I want to make a movie app that I list the movies from this database or this website. I think there's like a like IMDb, kind of open source IMDb, where you can get like the movie information from. How do I do that? That now you've got like a little thing you can just go do. How do I get this information? How do I present that on the screen in a list? How do I now take that, if I tap on each list item, to see the details? And you're setting yourself these like goals along the way. Now you can't just be, the entire thing is just make a movie app, right? That lets me see what the most recent movies are and what the ratings are and all this kind of stuff, right? But then you want to then you can start breaking it down into all the individual pieces you need to do. Now you may not know how you achieve this, right? But you know that you need to do this thing, right? And if you don't know that you need to do it, then that's your piece of research. So the first starting point that you're going to work on is, my target is to research this, to work out how do I make a movie app, right? And it's kind of like, give yourself a goal, give yourself a target, and as you do that process, you will learn things and you will learn how best to achieve things. But again, for beginners, if you want to, you're already in the middle of making an app and you want to know what state management to use, to just pick one. Really, pick one, but make sure you stick with it. And throughout, the structure should be with that state management. If you start doing one of one thing, one of another thing, you just make a mess, and it will confuse you.
I was going to say it's interesting. There was a 3-week period that like 15 different people came on Discord and we're asking questions about a quiz app where they said, okay, here's a question. It has 4 possible answers. Keep score. And it was like, was there some class that assigned that or something? Because there were all these people coming in and saying, how do I do this? How do I do this?
Do you know what? It could have been one of those courses, right? Their final project is make a quiz app or something. And suddenly they all
It was weird, but I'd actually consider that easier than a movie app because you don't have to deal with so much AV stuff,
I mean, the other side of that is it's all self-contained. There's no necessary API for that or anything like that.
Right.
But again, this is
got all your questions in there. Yeah.
Again, if you're going to make a movie app, you could also go just take your top 5 movies from IMDb, copy and paste the titles and the descriptions and the ratings into a class, into like a model, make an array up, and now that's your data set that your apps can display, right? You don't have to be rocket science. You don't have to start using APIs and all these things. Take it step by step. Right. Let's get to the next topic here.
We got 6 questions already in the queue. Wow. Well, 5 now.
Is there a way to have unit tests always running like I can with some dev tools, so I see the breaking changes as I code?
Ooh.
I mean, that is exactly, well, okay. I don't know of any tools that do that in tests, with tests.
No. I mean, you would have to know how the source code changes what tests are rerun for that source code.
Okay, so Ben, what you do get as a reaction to all these tools is, as you code, how the compiler will break. Like, you have a syntax problem, that will tell you got immediate feedback for that. Your type is wrong, you're calling the wrong function, your wrong class, you can't do this thing. That's the direct feedback you get. But running tests, I lost a Randall. Running tests. He's back.
Yeah, sorry, I had to do something here I didn't want people to see.
Running tests. I mean, you can rerun the test. I don't know if Flutter actually has like a watch test function. I suppose you could, you can watch the source codes and have things run. There's no reason why you couldn't make that happen. I don't know how.
You can also run it automatically on a push to a repo somewhere, but I don't think that's what this person's asking.
That's the CI thing that we would do. I wonder if this is just like difference between web and app, right? So in a web-based I don't know enough about web-based development systems, so maybe that's something, and I can see that maybe working in that situation. However, I do like this. I like this idea because you have code coverage, right? You know what
Right.
lines of code affect what test,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right? Like you can get that from code coverage. So because it's the reverse, right? So there
Yeah.
should be no reason why you couldn't, as you change lines, rerun those tests that are affected by that, that change, and then see if you've broken something. But the problem here with this is, Ben, is the reason why it's impractical most of the time is you're wasting so much compute. You honestly just wasting so much of your power of your machine running tests all the time, and as you type and as you code are gonna break, right? Like you change a bunch of code around, you've broken 100 tests, right? Normally it's a case of you once you finish your session of coding, you want to run your tests, and you just do that as a button press. And then if they don't pass, you find out what's going on, you fix it, and then you can commit your code, right? Or you push it, and then you let the CI server pick up the change and tell you if you've broken the branch.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll make changes in one file that I know I'm going to have to cut and paste stuff to make changes in another file. And until then, it'll absolutely break because I haven't moved the stuff around the right way yet.
I think there is a dynamic that I've seen, right? Like in terms of not age of developers as in their personal age, but how long they've been developing for, right? As a starter developer, I think you have less things in flux, and as you become more experienced programming, I think you can have more things in flux, right? So you have like more edits going on overall. Like I could go refactor a whole set of classes all at once and know where I am in doing that, and have that all in mind, so that when I can achieve that end result and know that it's finished at the end of it. I've done all that piece of work at once. Whereas I think as a beginner, that's very much harder to picture because they've got that much experience, maybe, so that you're always working in smaller units of changes.
I was just working on a project for the past few days where the code base that I have inherited has a lot of technical debt. One of them was everything was sort of named wrong in terms of folders. Well, the VS Code, as long as you drag the file one at a time and then close all the windows that are open, it works.
Okay.
To actually do the renames and make it all link up.
I'm going to tell you this. This has been a known problem in the IntelliJ plugin for I don't know how long. To be honest, I think it was fixed at one point and then it's got unfixed. And then maybe it's just me or I don't know, but I haven't tried following up or reporting it. I just deal with it. And that is, if you try and drag a multiple set of Dart files around, it will just break. It will just break. It will make the imports file kernel // or it won't even change them at all. It'll break them in some fashion rather than actually like doing the refactoring, moving each one or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Dan Tuppeny tells me it's because it's not in the analyzer yet. He says he can't get any information until the analyzer tells him that there was a folder moved or a bunch of files at the same time moved. And he says, so that's actually broken in the analyzer. He's waiting on some bug fixes for that.
There's also, I think, there's this, I've noticed this before. It's like, if you do a Flutter upgrade, or let's say Flutter change the Flutter channel,
right?
The plugin needs to understand that Flutter's changed. Maybe your Dart version has changed, and it has to reload, shut down the current analysis server, rejig everything, and it's a complex problem. I mean, you think about like the fact that, again, what things have been done by the IDE's tooling, as in the way it understands the way files and projects work and so on, and what is being done by the analyzer and the plugin. I mean, it's a difficult problem, no doubt.
Oh, look, Ed Fowler in the chat actually says it well. Use a commit hook to launch unit test.
Yeah,
I like that because that'll happen locally then before you push it somewhere.
So you can do Git hooks, right? So that when you commit on your local branch, the Git hook fires off to run the tests. But again, you can do that, but it's not like watching, right? It's not, because the thing is, what you don't want to do, and I think this is why I was thinking about code coverage, is that once you run all your tests and you know which ones are passing, which ones aren't, it's you want to rerun those tests that you want to limit the amount of tests that are being rerun each time you make a code change. You don't want to have to rerun all your tests every single time you change a line, right?
You'd like that to be scoped a bit, yes.
You need to scope those tests to be run only to the things that actually require it, and then even then, only the ones that failed perhaps last. I don't know. Whatever. I get that. You get that down.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way.
Right. Moving
All right,
on.
let's move on. Yeah, we still got 6 in the queue. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Cosmin Lordake. I don't know if it's a real name. Let's go.
Could be Lordash.
I try to use Firebase packaging in my Flutter app for login and registration. I keep getting these notes about deprecation of packages, and I should run excellent deprecation details. Okay. First of all, those warnings are from Android, the Android Gradle compiler, and you can completely ignore them. There you go. Problem solved. Basically, it's the Firebase plugins, the Java/Kotlin code in not just maybe the Firebase plugins, but also the Firebase libraries that are using deprecated functionality of Android. And each time they release a new version of the API, you're compiling against that most recent version, so more things are going to be deprecated. The idea here is just to warn you that because there's deprecated stuff being used, you should upgrade them. But this is not your code. So all you need to do as a developer is to ensure that your Firebase library is kept up to date. As long as you keep it up to date, they should be keeping theirs up to date, and so on. And then you won't have a problem with deprecation. But to be honest, on the Android side of things, I think you need to be waiting like 4 years to see something actually be removed. So don't even worry about it. Like by then, either your app's going to be a completely different version of the software, or it's going to be dead. One of the two.
Yes.
I mean, that's the truth of it, right? Like 4 years is a long time in computers, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if to halve that, it's still a long time. So, yeah. I tell you what it is, it's just annoying to see these warnings every single time you compile. That's the real annoying thing. To be honest, make sure you're mostly running the most recent version of the Firebase plugins, and also that's the Firebase, in your PubSpec YAML. It can be, I don't know if you've made any changes to your Android folder, but it might also be advantageous to delete your Android folder and do Flutter create dot. Obviously, if you checked in your stuff in the repo, you can revert this change. So that's why I suggest you first back up before you do this. But you can delete your Android folder in your project, do Flutter create dot, and it let it recreate. You might need to copy and paste your application ID in and some other, your package name and stuff, and fix it up. But then you'll get a whole new fresh setup of configuration and build Gradle scripts and all this kind of stuff that might be better than what you're currently using. Not much has changed recently, but it depends on when you created your project, if it was like a year ago or not.
Yeah, Simon, I think you sped over that fact a little too fast. So let me make sure people get it.
Slow it down.
Is that let's say you already have an existing Flutter project. If you go to the top of that project and type Flutter create dot, any missing files in a terminal, right? So, and sitting at the top of that project, any files that are missing from the standard, we build this on day one when we say Flutter create foo, get installed. Now, what's interesting is you can also go in and say, for example, rm-rf iOS. And because it says, oh, he doesn't have the iOS files anymore, it fully fleshes those out with the latest current versions. And so you can take any one of those top level directories and delete it. Now remember, Simon just pointed this out, is that if you have anything like configuration files that need to be added after you built your project, be sure to save those somewhere, or save them obviously in Git so you can get back to them.
Yeah, the nice thing is for using Git, right? Well, after you do this, you can just open up your whatever Git tool you're using, even if it's Git status, or you can do type git diff on the command line. But obviously, I hope you're using your IDE's Git or some other Git tool, like I use fork.dev. And you can see a side-by-side example of what's changed, what files have changed, and what content has changed. And what that means is that you can then say, oh, look, these are the lines from my build.gradle that changed. And you can normally highlight and accept just certain lines. So you could see, oh, it's changed all these things, like the default icon. I'm going to throw those away. I want to keep my icons. And then you can discard the changes that the Flutter create made and just keep your ones. So yeah, you can mix and match. Anyway, moving on. Let's see what's Mossa. I'm probably saying that really wrong. Anyway, is there a way to convert Flutter widgets or custom painted to PDF? Yes and no. How's that?
Wonderful answer. Moving on. No.
So there's actually a really great package. I think it's just called PDF. It's been a while. I'm just going to check it out, make sure I got the right one.
Yeah, I was just thinking there's a package named that.
There's a package called PDF. I'll put the link in the chat and display it on screen for those that aren't in the chat or come back later or something. It's just PDF, the package called PDF.
Yeah.
And what it does is the package actually has, in fact, I'll share it here just to walk you through it. Why not? Since we're here and we're doing stuff. Let's see if I can make this work. Here we go. That one?
Looks like that button.
There we go.
Yeah. Then we get small over here. Yeah.
Let's see if I can get this.
You want to look for something that takes a global key and takes the
so
from it, right?
so the problem here is Flutter itself renders to canvases, and you could potentially capture those operations and do something. It's really complicated. But what this really interesting thing does is it has a widget system similar to Flutter's for easy PDF creation. So what this means is inside its reference, I think there might be some examples. I mean, yeah, here you go. So
there we go.
See here, look, build PW page, and then inside that you have a context. Inside that you want to put center, and inside that you want to put some text. They're just including this PW because they've imported the library as PW in the top of the file. There's some examples actually, but you can see here, like you can just say center image, and you can build up your UI for your PDF the same way you would do essentially with Flutter. So that's why I recommend you go to first. But yeah, there's no direct way of currently converting widgets, and the reason why they did it this way is because there's different limitations on PDFs and widgets. There you go. Here's the widget library. There, so you align, anchor, annotation, barcodes, borders. It's really powerful. Charts, like everything you want to do in a PDF, you can use these widgets, and they're pretty much the same. Like fractional offset, flexible, the grid paper, even like you think about any of the widgets that you've got in Flutter, they've got like a replica for PDFs, basically, with some specific ones for PDFs. But yeah, there's a bunch of them in there, and there's no point in me going through them, but you get the idea. So yeah, it's really powerful. Highly recommend. All done in Dart, pure Dart as well, which is really nice. So you'll work on all the platforms. Right, what was that was to answer the PDF one. Yeah, so when it comes to custom painter, just want to clear this bit up. So just in case you want it to, or custom painter, you can just capture a bitmap of your canvas. So what you can do is you can do a actually, do you know what? I'll bring it up on screen since we're here and we're talking about it. If I go to api.flutter.dev, everyone should hopefully see this. And if we search, I'll make it larger. If we search for picture recorder, this is class that you create, and then it gives you a and then you have in the canvas constructor. I've done that backwards. Sorry. In the canvas constructor, you can give it a picture recorder. So what this means is you create a picture recorder, you create your canvas, draw your things to the canvas like you would do normally with Paint, and then afterwards you call this end recording function, and it gives you a picture. Now a picture may represent a sequence of recorded graphical operations, and then from that picture, you can now do to image and get a bitmap. An image, a picture, and once you have your image, you can then put that in a PDF. So that's another way of doing it. That's quite common practice to have like just PDFs that are just each page is a massive picture, for various reasons. But yeah, anyway. So there's also that possibility.
Yep.
All right, let's take another one. Let's get through these questions. More questions, everyone. More questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Rob,
you guys doing great. Keep them coming.
if you need to add 3D to a web application, does that immediately rule out using Flutter or anything? You can use 3D in web. Done. There you go. So there's no ruling out. It supports it from day one. So here you go. API. I'm going to go to api.dart.dev. Right, and in here on the left, Dart WebGL. There you go. 3D programming in your browser. Done. So I did actually post a what's it called? Dartpad, isn't it? Yeah. Dartpad. Let's see if this is the one. Yeah, here you go. I will post this in the chat for you. So this is an implementation. Dartpad does not like WebGL. It complains it doesn't exist. However, it does, and it works fine. But this is a good example of 3D done in Flutter in your browser using WebGL. And over here on the left, it's a simple file, single 166 lines. And yeah, if you want to, I'll put that in chat. It's a gist, and you can go do all that sort of jazz with it as well. So I'll stop sharing. Hopefully, there we go. So yeah, I just dropped that in chat. So that's the Dartpad link, and then because it's a gist, there's a gist link as well somewhere. Hang on, and here's the gist link as well. So hopefully that will give you what you need to do 3D in Flutter. Yeah. James, Bloc pattern for state management. Thoughts? Go for it. So it's Bloc. I'm going to be pedantic. It's Bloc without a K, just for those other people that are.
BLOC. Business lines of code. No.
Logic. Business logic.
Business logic.
I forget what it stands for now. But yeah, it's so I go pub.dev packages. So there's first of all, this is the Flutter Bloc package. This is just a community package, right? Like it follows the business logic component. That's what it stands for. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, it follows the design pattern, and it's made a package out of it, right? And it's quite a popular package, and this is what you can use as state management, right? However, it's not necessarily the Bloc pattern, right? Like this has a whole set of this idea of events and states and streams and so on, and it's great. However, you can have a function in your Bloc that emits that tells that runs something asynchronously and then tells the Bloc to emit a state. You don't have to have a stream of events going into your Bloc to then change its state. Like having a stream on a button, it feels to me like a bit overkill. But there's different ways of handling that. But go for it. Any thoughts from you, Randall?
No, that's great. Well, okay, so here's the thing about Bloc. Bloc was designed by Google internally for a very large application. And the idea of everything being essentially event queues appealed to them. Yeah. But it does sort of become then an opinionated way of how to get stuff in state change from one place to another. I'm a big fan of Riverpod, and obviously Simon, most of the audience knows this. Everything you can do with Bloc, you can do with Riverpod, and then Riverpod is more Legos, so you can build other things besides that opinionated structure. You get the best of both worlds that way.
I think the problem with these libraries, so just thinking about this, and something we were talking about the other day, is that if you give a developer, here's the problem, right? And this is I think I've said this before many times. It's a pro and con of Flutter, right? And that is it gives you option, and that's as a developer that's been doing this for a long time. You want the option. You don't want to be limited by the platform you're working, right? You're not about to do anything, right? That you can. However, the problem with giving you all these options is that you end up with this kind of sensibility of how do I begin, right? Like I've got all these options, like what one should I choose? And this is where these questions come from state management, something like people coming back going, I don't know what one to choose. And again, that comes from experience and knowing the problem and knowing how to solve it. And that just comes from, again, use the right tool for the right job. The thing is with something like Riverpod is that it gives you lots and lots of little Legos, right, to build things, but you need to practice with those to understand where to best use those things and how they connect and how they work together, right? Whereas Flutter Block is like a one Lego piece that you kind of link everything with, but there's a certain way that you do that, and it limits your powers and the way that you do things.
It's like the Millennium Falcon set of Lego. It already has some weird pieces you wouldn't use anywhere else, but they're all appropriately shaped, and they do somehow interact with normal Lego.
I guess that works. All right, let's move on from Lego. I need room to improve parsing JSON in Dart. I want to provide request a second in Dart. I can use an isolate, but can I share some state in that isolate? Okay, so there's okay. I'm gonna just
there's 6 problems in this question.
Yeah, let's break this down. Let's break this down. So first of all, I think there's a problem here, and that is there's a Dart article that's been around for like parsing JSON for a long time on the Flutter webpage, which is like, here's how you parse JSON. Do it in the background with an isolate, and you can use a compute function. And the problem here is, in most practical purposes, you don't ever need to do that, right? Like it's just there as a way of showing you how to use like the effectiveness of like parsing maybe a huge chunk of data and doing it in a separate, possibly a separate thread. The thing here is the improved parsing. There's you can use the built-in stuff. There's also a thing called stream parsing, which is another thing that you can do. I think there's a separate library for that, if I remember rightly. So rather than like having all the data up front, you can just read data off a stream and parse it as you go into a series of objects and then emit those from a stream as well. There's no reason why you can't do that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, improved parsing. I mean, what are you parsing? I mean, how like? Okay, feedback into the conversation. How big are these JSON files? Like are you talking about like 32 megabyte JSON files here? Like what are you talking about here? Because like request a second, I'm assuming you're talking about server side like requests. So you're doing Dart on the server side, and you're passing JSON. I would not spin up an isolate for those requests. I would handle it synchronously, right? You want to spin up multiple nodes to handle more requests a second if you need to, right? Like, yeah, you can have multiple containers spin up to handle that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
And we don't know whether this is parsing server side or client side either, from the way this question's phrased.
But the question is, it sounds to me like they're making server side requests, and there's JSON that they're parsing, possibly large JSON, and they're deciding to follow the guide on the Flutter website, which uses an isolate, and they're finding that there's a stall in the pipeline where it spins up an isolate on the request, right? And then on top of that, they then share the data across and have to get the data back again. So the thing that you have to remember is that isolates take like. You can actually right now. There's if you go to the Dart, I'll put in the chat the Dart concurrency page that was launched. Not where is it? This is the one. I'll put it in chat and I bring it
Where
up.
they talk about how isolates have become improved recently, which then had to get backed out. I think there was something about it having to be backed out.
I'm pretty sure it's still in there. I think it was re-implemented. I think you're talking about before it was re-added. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, down here at the very this first of all, this talks about how isolates work. Very interesting reading for all Flutter and Dart developers. Recommend it. Right, might be a bit above your station, so that's fine. But yeah, you should read it. But anyway, you see it. If your UI's app becomes unresponsive due to time-consuming computation, for example, parsing a large JSON file, right? And this is the article that I was just talking about that is on the Flutter website. Networking, parsing JSON in the background. And again, it's like you might need to perform an expensive computation, such as parsing a very large JSON document, right? If your work takes more than 16 milliseconds, your users can experience jank. But so let me be clear. That's one individual piece of work, right? So it's complicated. I won't go into that. But anyway, and then this goes into how you use that, do that in the background and pass data back and forth and a bunch of stuff. An example of that. Anyway, but back down here, the very, very bottom, you'll find here we are, performance in isolate groups, and this is the bit you probably want to read, which is if you use the spawn rather than the compute function, and then inside that spawn function use exit, it actually keeps the isolate alive ish, like some of the setup for like the stack and everything, and can reuse it. So your isolates will spin up quicker, so you can get like a larger throughput of isolates spinning up. You can see here that two isolates that have same experience in the same isolate group can performance optimize as sharing code. Notice that immediately runs the code owned by the isolate group, right? Also, exit only works when isolates in the same group. So that's what you want to be looking into. So that hopefully would improve your isolate performance. However, the other side of this is you could spin up each request in its own isolate, and that might be a better way. So on your front end, when a request comes in, spin out an isolate for the request from the same group like this, spawn one, and then every request gets one. I don't know what the throughput is. You'll have to just do some measurements. That might be another option, and that way you kind of go on.
I think Shelf has the ability to use essentially a worker pool of isolates for incoming requests. So that's another strategy too.
Does it?
I believe so.
Let's have a look. Oh.
Now you're gonna make me a liar.
No. I was just thinking
I think it's extra package somewhere down there.
Yeah, no, I remember Shelf. Is it Shelf Plus?
Shelf multi-part? No.
I
so
remember
many Shelf things now. I've seen it. I know I've seen it, but I'm trying to remember where.
I will mention that there is this package called he says isolate.
If you can spell it.
Oh yeah, good call.
Isloid.
Oh my God, this is a typo. Oh my God,
Isloid.
So you got the Dart isolate package. Oh, they moved it in there now.
Isolate's dead, it looks like.
Isolate's been discontinued. Okay.
Yeah.
And is this the one that I was thinking of? Let me just check. I might be. This was the one. So this has been discontinued and apparently it's been merged into Dart isolate. So that's interesting. But this one has what's called. I mean, most of this maybe isn't necessary with the new isolate spawning, but this allowed you to create a pool of. I'm trying to remember where it is in here. Might be load balancer. Yeah, so this lets you spin up a bunch of runners, and then you tell the pool to run some work, and it will reuse the runners. So this was another way of getting performance, like pool performance. But it looks like that package is discontinued. I'm assuming that you think Shelf has got something like that.
Let's see, middleware handler.
I don't think Shelf.
Okay,
I don't think I've seen Shelf itself. This
Google took me there when I went to worker pool with isolate and Dart. But I don't see it here, so I don't think so. I don't know. It's weird.
Let's see if Google tucks me in.
Well, we have 9 questions in the queue still, so let's
let's carry on some questions. But anyway, so I believe I know what you're talking about. I think one of these, it might be Plus, like there's some external libraries that are add-ons. And here's the thing: you could do it yourself. It's not like it's not like a really complicated thing to do. You just have the request await the result, and that pauses that coroutine in the main thread, whilst the separate isolate goes on and does its thing. And then the main thread still is free to work on other requests. So very little overhead in terms of the main one. I'm not going to find it now, but there's a ton of packages and things that can help you out with web servers. Shelf being a web server, by the way, for anyone that didn't know. Right, moving on. Let's see what else we have.
Yep.
Can you guys talk about routes in Flutter? For example, bottom navigation bar routes.
Shelf Plus. Shelf Plus
was. It was Shelf. It was Shelf Plus. Was it?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I see it has like it has a response handler, cascading multiple routes, multi-threading under Shelf Run, and the table of contents there.
What in Shelf Plus?
Yeah, multi-threading, router plus, middleware, response handler, Scroll, baby, scroll.
Okay, so it has a shelf run.
Shelf run and
Oh, see if you can find it and let us know. I'm kind of curious. Anyway,
here. Dart supports multi-threading using isolates, and you can enable shared by setting default shared parameter when you start it up. Okay, yeah.
where is that? Sorry, I'm kind of curious.
That's under multi-threading. Multi-threading on the main doc page.
Oh, it is. Okay. Hang on.
Yeah, number of isolates equals 8. Yeah, spawn server, Bing. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Shelf run multi-threading.
Yeah, there you go. It's right there. So
If
if this was a server-side question that you had asked that we already moved on from, that would take care of you. Shelf plus, okay? All right.
Yeah. So
back to this question.
I'm just going to bring this up just so that anyone on the stream who's not following along can see. Yeah. So here in the documentation for shelf plus multi-threading, and then there you go. Look, number of isolates. You can see here he's actually using isolate.spawn, which is the new isolate grouping. Then does spawn server, spawns it, and it does this default shared true. Oh, there you go. So what he's actually doing here is spawning multiple. So each one of these is running spawn server. See that? So he's actually calling shelf run on separate isolates.
And he's informing it that, only one thread should take it.
So this must do some magic in the background where it detects that it's not on the main isolate. Then they wait for the main isolate to do the scheduling. That's really quite a nice way of doing it, I guess. Oh, look, it tells you like hello from isolate. So yeah.
Yep.
So basically, there's a router. There's an instance of every handler. Multiple times. I don't know. I'm not going to query it right now. But anyway, so something.
Anyway.
Moving on.
People want it, they can have it.
Right. Can you guys talk about routes in Flutter? For example, I don't know what bottom navigation bar routes are. So you've said something that I have no idea what you're talking about. I have a guess of what you mean, and that is you want to have your routes keep the bottom navigation bar, which is a common problem that people have when starting Flutter. And if that's the case, there's some simple fixes. I mean, we could actually do some live coding maybe in a bit. So I'm going to leave that one in the queue.
Okay.
But the real so you've got a builder parameter on Material App, which would let you solve that problem. And there's also nested navigators, which also solve that problem. Yeah, I think we should return to that. It's a more complicated answer, and we've had this question so many times. I'd like to get something maybe that we can refer back to. So I'm going to hide that one for now, and we'll maybe come back to it if we have time. Right, can we do LDAP using Flutter? Do we have a package? I have no idea. If we search pub, do we get a package?
Let's go to the pub.
Never DAP. Yes, there's a
Dart DAP. Nice.
That LDAP v3.
LDAP v3 client. That's it.
Add search, delete, modify against any v3 compliant server. 19 days ago. Nice and up to date. There you go. Unverified uploader though. I mean, this just means that they've not. This just means they haven't got a published domain that they've attached to. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it, and it just means it's probably managed by one person. And here is the guy, Warren Strange, from Calgary in Canada, I guess. There he is.
That is Canada, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you, Warren, for your lovely support of LDAP in the dark web.
Yes.
And you've got some nice examples here as well.
I think LDAP is that protocol that uses this really, really weird string encoding.
Probably. I'm not even gonna. It's ancient. It's been around. I mean, that's the good thing, right? It's been around a while. So.
It's as old as soap.
In the computing world. I saw something.
It's kind of in the same category for me.
I know that ASCII's pretty old, right? ASCII's maybe as old as like cave paintings in the computer world, right? All right.
I once had a client that put XML inside XML.
Don't. I'm getting flashback. It's what's even worse is when you have JSON and then there's a string field that contains JSON and you're like,
right?
What?
Yeah,
what?
yeah. Oh, you could also do XML over SOAP too, just in case you really wanted to make it worse.
Oh my god! Oh yeah. Do you know what? Banks still use that. Banking networks still they in the 1990s when WSDL was it the web script
Yeah.
no web soap description language or whatever it was, and it was
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really popular. Like all the
Yeah.
banks transitioned to was when banks were going online, right? And that was
Right.
every banking system still has setups for soap, and I'm like, oh
So,
god, I mean it
so
works.
all they did is literally publish their RPC that would be coming from COBOL somewhere as a SOAP interface.
Yeah,
It was
basically.
horrible because they had to deal with all the
Still
data
horrible.
structures
I
and
don't.
banking.
Anyway,
And banking's still like that. I know for fact because
I'm getting
my
bad
client
flashbacks.
2 years ago.
I'm
Yes.
getting bad flashbacks. We're not going to talk about this. Right now.
Sorry. Go.
Is there a way
Go.
to know whether whenever the app is removed from the background in RAM?
Ooh. Ooh. It's
well,
no longer running at that point. How could you know?
there is
There's a
something.
life cycle for it?
It's on Android.
Okay.
So you actually have inside of Flutter there is a lifecycle event.
Right.
I'm trying to remember what this is now. So hang on. Whoops, wrong one.
There's a Riverpod hook for that.
API.flutter.dev, and you have app lifecycle state.
Yep.
So basically, you do widgets binding observer dot. Was it binding? I can't remember what it is. Yeah, widgets binding observer dot add observer and remove observer, and then you can then override did change app lifecycle state, and this app lifecycle state, contains if it was inactive in the back, if it was paused, but then also if it was made inactive. So on iOS corresponds to app host running in the foreground in inactive state. I think there was one where it's like detached. Here we go. It's still hosted from the Flutter engine, but it's detached from any host views. The application in this state is running without a view. It can either be in the progress of attaching the engine and first initializers, or after being destroyed due to a navigation pop. I think if I remember rightly, one of you have to have a look at this. I think one of these have also changed their names. I think it might have been detached. I can't remember. Pause resumed. I think it might be detached. We might give you the information you want. However, to be honest, it's down to the platform. So there is actually another callback that has been recently added to Flutter. I say recently added. This is probably like still ages old.
Right.
There we are. Have memory pressure. And this will tell you if the system is under heavy memory pressure, and it's essentially a way of you freeing up memory. It's also when the system's trying to free memory and is potentially going to close your app. So if your app does not free its memory, it can be shut down by the system. So if you want your app to stay around longer, then listen to this method, and then remove like your memory caches and clear your image cache in Flutter. There's some other various things that you can do to like free up system memory, and then your app will not be shut down. Anyway,
So in the private chat, I posted the Flutter hooks version of accessing that. That's much less complex.
oh yeah, all right, let's have a look.
Yep. Go to the private.
Use app lifecycle state. Yeah, so you just do that, and then you get the hook with the result. Yeah.
Right, and then it rebuilds your widget when that changes. So that's
Oh.
nice. What? Ooh.
And his documentation is broken in some way.
Oh.
Because it's linking to the old app lifecycle state for Dart 2.16. It needs to be the documentation needs to be regenerated. Anyway, right. Where were we? Back to questions. More questions. So yes.
Oh yeah.
So
we're up
there
to
is
10
also,
now. We have 10, and it just keeps getting bigger. So we're gonna have to talk faster.
Right. So just a quick point here. The remove from background. You can set up. There is a method in Android that the activity gets to let you know that it's gone into the background, or is going to get removed. And then you can also like handle stop and some other things. But to be honest, your app's getting pulled down. I would honestly, you're probably programming your app the wrong way. What you should be doing. This is the key thing. Let's say I'll give you a good example here. Right. This is a really simple example. Okay. Your app has a bottom navigation with 4 tabs. and you want to say that when the app starts up, it starts up on the tab that you left it on. Really simple, right? So what you might do in your head is go, okay, they changed to tab 3, and when the app finishes, I'm going to save that number 3 to a file. But what you actually want to do is when they switch to tab 3, save it to a file. Because that way, after they switch that tab, at any time, if your application is falls quit, crashes, whatever, when the app starts up, it'll be left on tab 3. So the idea is you proactively update your state on disk, that store your state as it changes within limitation. Obviously, you don't want to be just like hitting the disk all the time. But what you're not doing is waiting to be shut down to do that kind of work, right? So normally there's no good reason to know when your app is being forcefully quit or shut down or whatever. Anyway, other ways to do the same thing. Right, moving on. Are the UML class diagram docs showing how the official widgets are related? No.
Well, no. I pasted Lycos in the
Oh,
chat.
is there? Another I know. Wow.
Oh, I thought you told me about that.
Which one was this? Maybe I'm
Lycos, Lakos. Look in the private chat. Click on it.
Oh, hang on a minute. No, I don't think this is what I was talking about. No, no. Yes, there's this. This is not what they're asking for. They're asking, yeah. So no, that's good. That's
it does give you a bit of an overview.
So let me bring this up on the stream here.
Yeah.
And I'll also pop it in the public chat here.
Yep.
So yeah, this is a graphing tool that lets you graph things, right? So this lets you. Oh, does this graph Dart files?
It analyzes the Dart files, because it uses the analyzer, and figures out what all the class relationships are.
Oh yeah. No, but this is fine for your project, but you can't do this on you can imagine running this on the Flutter framework.
Oh no. Oh yeah, it would be it'd probably overflow your memory.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I have never tried it. You could try it.
You can try it. I got a puny machine, so I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing. So this is giving you a nice little sort of diagram of how your app is structured together, all the different classes and so on and so forth. Yeah, well, it looks like you can color it as well. Convert to GML.
Yeah,
nice. This is really nice. So
it's a great package.
This must be using the Dart analyzer.
Yeah, I just said that like 2 minutes ago. It uses the analyzer, works out the relationship of the classes, the files they're in, all that stuff, and then builds the layout, which is really nice.
Interesting.
It's pretty fun.
Well, there you go.
I played with it a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Moving on.
I dare not use it on my current client's project. It would be
actually before we so the thing that I would say about this is the way I've learned the structure of all the classes is api.flutter.dev, right? The Flutter main page, and then when you find a class, for example, let's say alignment, there's align the widget, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you got all this lovely stuff, and then underneath you'll have inheritance, so you can see what it's inherited from and what the implementers are. So center it inherits from align. So I go to center and go down. Oops, too far. You'll find the inheritance is center align single child. So you can use this.
That's great.
And if you go to single child render object, for example, and then look at its, there you go. All of the implementers that are single child render objects.
Yep.
Widgets. And that's the way I learned the structure of how all those things work together. And then the really nice thing about this is that can kind of lead you on to this creates a single child render object element. Okay, and what is an element? Okay, so it's a render object element. Okay, what render object elements are there? So there's all this information here. It's all in the SDK. It's really well documented. And then you can see here are the implementers of all the different types of elements that you have in the tree. Not many. You have multi-child, single child, and there's some leaf, they're the main ones, and then you have the ones for adapters between this and slivers and so on. And it's not like if I go leaf render object, then this tells me it's a leaf render object widget, and these are all the leaf nodes. So raw image, texture, text can have children because it can have embedded widgets now, so that's a multi-child. Anyway, yeah.
What you're saying is there's a ton of documentation out there if you're willing to paw through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Read the docs. Art, read the fine manual.
Right? Read the docs.
Read the fine manual.
Will there be any official library for rendering SVG? We have one. It's called Flutter SVG. There you go. You've got it in one. So there's going to be no official one because the problem, and this has been said, there's a ticket. There's been a issue ticket in Flutter since day one about SVG. And the reason why it's not being pulled in is because SVG as a standard has JavaScript. If I want a library that supports SVG, I've got to support JavaScript. That's never going to happen, right? If I want to support all these other things like shaders and like all these other filters and all these other effects, most people want, when they say SVG, they want simple path shapes, right? And maybe text support and a few other things like that. They don't want like all this extra stuff. But because the standard supports it, it's like there will never be a complete SVG library, right? It's just not going to happen, right? Well, within reason. Like, there's no reason why you couldn't get like libSVG and use, I don't know. If you were to get libSVG and use F of I, you could probably add 15 megabytes to your app and have the perfect SVG renderer for any possible SVG. But for what purpose? Because you're never going to ship all those possible SVGs in your app, right? That's where Flutter SVG comes in. So Flutter SVG has quite good basics level of support. Go on.
I think a good analogy to this is there's this library out there that everybody else uses called Perl Compatible Regular Expressions, PCRE. But it can't actually ever be Perl Compatible Regular Expressions because you can embed raw Perl code in the middle of an actual Perl regular expression. And that means you'd have to have the whole Perl interpreter in PCRE.
Yeah.
Not happening.
So if you're trying to do like all these things with SVG, you can get away. As I said, you can probably get away with including a library and doing some rendering, doing some other things. But what are you trying to achieve with these SVGs? Because I'll tell you something else. If you use WebP, convert whatever so convert your SVG to a PNG, throw your PNG to WebP, and put that WebP file into your app because you'll get way less file size, probably the same file size as an SVG, and exactly the same quality, right? You could even include 5 different levels of, I don't know if people know this, right? But you can have in your assets, you can have 1x, 2x, 3x folders. There's a bit in the documentation. In fact, since we have it here, if you go to flutter.dev and we go to documentation, there's a bit about supplying images, isn't there, somewhere? It'd be the one time I want to find it, and I don't know where it is because it's all changed on me. Do you remember where it is? Resources? No. I could do this. Just Google Flutter image Rex. I don't know. Adding assets. That's the one. Where is it?
Assets.
Development user interfaces, assets, and images. And in here, it talks about how you add variants. So where is it down here? Have I missed it? Yeah, here we go. You can have like these folders like this, 2.0x, 3.0x, and those should be 3 times the 1-to-1 resolution of your graphic. And this way, you get a higher quality, non-blurry images on the higher quality screens, and on the lower quality screens, you'll get the lower quality graphics. It's that simple. So this is standard pixel ratio stuff. This has been around for a long time. This is, if you go look up on Android DPI, DP, DIPs they're called. So just search like Android space DP, and you'll get lots of information. In fact, there's a lovely Android. Well, I'm trying to remember what it is. There's like a metrics Android. What's it like? I don't remember the page. Different pixel densities. That sounds like the one. There you go. It explains the differences here, and then oops. Android pixel densities, and then further down, I think there's a lovely graphic. There you go, like a 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x. They have names for these in Android. We don't use these names. We just use the actual measurements. You can see here 1.0x, 1.5x, 2x, 3x, 4x, and 0.75x. And then if we go 0.75 is no longer used by anyone, by the way. So just don't even think about LDPI for anything. There is, it might not be on this page. I think it's like supporting screen compatibility. This might be it. One of them has a nice little chart. Yeah, it's a different one. I don't remember what it is. But there's a lovely graphic which shows like the different breakpoints and like window sizes. Different screen sizes. No, not go up in my quick Google search. You have to another time. We need to move on to more questions. But yeah, no, there's lots of great resources in Android and resolutions out there. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Yep,
Right.
still got 10 in the queue, by the way. So if you get your question in now, you're only 10th in line.
We might get to them if you hurry up.
We might get to them. Yeah.
How to deal with unwanted widget build.
Use React Native.
Well, there's plenty of ways of doing
No.
that, right? So first of all, extract your widgets into their own widget. That's your first point of call.
Right.
Because, and the unwanted widget, but I mean, like if they're unwanted, don't rebuild it. I mean, if you so here's the thing. Let me just give you a little briefing here. If you have an entire, let's say, screen of widgets in one widget, and then you want to change like one piece of text when the state change. Let's say it says loading or something, and you want to change that based on a boolean. You set your boolean, you do set state. But what you've just done is you've now set state of the entire screen. So the entire screen rebuilds.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is to scope your changes to specific things. So things like provider and Riverpod use consumer and providers, so that when those things change, the consumers, just that bit, the builder method of the consumer rebuilds, and it only rebuilds that part of the UI. So, go on.
And if I can interject my experience from answering questions very similar to this on Discord, because it does come up a lot, and what they're actually saying is, why would you not want a widget to rebuild? I mean, it might take time. That's an interesting thing, because it really shouldn't. You really should have your build methods be idempotent and fast. But what's happening often is people are using init state to pull in some remote API call, and then the widget's rebuilding, and then you get a new API call, and they don't want that. Well, that's because you got your model and your view all mixed up. You really need to move that kind of code over to your model place where it stays, even though your widget's rebuilding.
Your domain, basically, yeah. In your domain specific logic of your app, which should work independently of your UI.
Yeah. I think that's a subtle subtext for this question, because again, you got to ask, why do you have unwanted widget rebuilds being a concern? Your widget should be able to rebuild 60 times a second if you've got an animation in there.
So this is the thing, right? Like, here's the funny thing, right? It's one of those conflicting things, right? You need to respect the fact that your widgets might be built 60. You have to build your app as if your build method is being called 60 times a second, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's just how it has to work, right? And then, but second of all, you want the least rebuilds as possible to get the best performance possible, right? So you build for the worst, but you plan for the best. Whatever, you get my meaning, right? Is that?
Yeah. But I just wanted to introduce this other subtext to this, totally. Because that's what I'm seeing a lot when people are asking this.
All right. What else do we have here? Let's move on.
Let's keep going. Thanks, Roberto, for your question.
How to run dark processes after the app is terminated? You don't.
It's gone.
This is talking about like this same. Vickers is talking about this same thing. If your app is forced terminated, that's it. Connection closed. Right. If you need to maintain a socket connection, I mean, you don't want to do that anyway. So first of all, when you said maintain, I thought like you need to send a close command, right, down your socket connection. No, like first of all, if that was the case, when your socket's terminated from the remote, the server knows that it's been closed, right? It doesn't get an ACK response on its thing, and you get a fin, and then it will. This is like TCP stuff. it will know that the connection's closed, and then on the back end, it can say this person's offline, right? That's fine. That's backend stuff, right? If you're doing this so that you can maintain an active socket connection in the background, that's something you do not want to do from mobile at all, ever. So that's the reason why you can't do it, because you shouldn't be doing it.
And neither Apple or Google is going to approve something like that, because they don't want to be blamed for bad battery life.
So what they now do on Android, you can do this, but what it means is you have to have a notification telling the user you're running in the background. It's called a foreground service, and you can do that, and you can run background services in Android, and you can run Dart. You can run your Dart environment in the background with a socket connection. And you have to have a foreground notification, and you can do that. And in fact, there are work manager package, and there's also if you're kind of looking at how this might work, there's the Android. There's two first-party packages. Firebase messaging runs a service in the background that does Dart stuff, and then there's also what's the Android timer one? Anyway,
Like
there's another first. Oh, I'm gonna find it.
Is it like a cron?
Yeah, it's how you schedule stuff in the background on Android. Flutter supports that.
Yeah.
The plugins repo, I think it's in there. I don't think it moved to. I might have moved to the. It's gonna, as soon as I see the name, it's gonna click, but for the life of me, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it got moved to the Plus package. After all that, hang on. Android Alarm Manager. Yeah. So it's now Android Alarm Manager Plus. I'll bring that up on stream here. It's this package here. And this essentially only works on Android, but it tells you, look, run in the background, all this kind of fun stuff. And this allows you to schedule stuff in the background, like periodic events, to run some Dart code periodically. Every 1 minute, run something, right? But your process will be detected by the system as running heavy. And the fact of the matter is, you don't want to be running anything in the background if the app is not actively being used. If you're trying to just not have something open on the screen to the user and run something in the background, that's a background service. And you can do that in Android. It's complicated though, but it's possible. And that's just even on Android, that would be complicated. Yeah, but yeah, totally workable. Go look up Dart background processes, and you'll find a bunch of stuff around it.
Right. 8 questions in the queue, 7 questions in the queue, so we're working through them as fast as we can. If you get one more question in before, we might actually be able to get to it today. Maybe not. You might have to come back next week. So
this is a good. I like this question. This is a question that should be asked more often. So why did we run JSON value as dynamic? If it's recommended to avoid dynamic. So a dynamic.
It's a great question. That's a great question.
It is. It's a great question. So 2 things. One, we don't know the structure of the JSON code ahead of time, so it's going to be dynamic. Now, ideally, I'd like to see. I don't know if there's a JSON library out there. I was saying earlier, like a streaming JSON parser, right? So it predetermines, knows the structure that you want to parse, and then as it passes the characters from the JSON stream, it will put them straight into the class and into the stream and manage it nicely. Now, when it comes to the reason that would stop the dynamic being necessary, because you have a predetermined structure. When it comes to the JSON parsing that's built into Dart, it's parsing into a series of maps, right? And they are in JSON. There's this really complicated. It's really funny. In strict JSON, you have to have an object at the top level. That means it has to start with a curly brace, right? However, not all people do this strict JSON, and they will start with an array at the top level, which is not valid JSON per se, right? Now, you're muted.
Bare value.
There we go. Sorry, say again.
So, or a bare value, like just a string or a number.
Yeah, just like a string of true or null at the top level as well, which again is not valid JSON. It has to start with an object.
No.
So this is the problem that the JSON parser is trying to deal with, right? That if you literally put the string true into JSON.decode, it will return back true as a Boolean value, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be dynamic because of the nature of the way JSON works. Also, serialization, deserialization is a dynamic process in itself. It's very, you can be strict about it, and it's how other things work. But yeah, we're currently doing the two-step process, which is we take out our full string of JSON normally, put it through JSON processing into maps, and then we take those maps and make them into model objects, which I would like to see that go away. So we'd like to see like a stream of characters form straight into Dart objects. This would be the best possible use of memory and structure and typing and safety and everything. It's possible, but I don't think there's a library for it yet. I don't have time.
I think there are tools to be able to build JSON translators. There are also tools in my VS Code, Dart data code generator, something like that, where I can say, here's a class, and I expect this class to be the top level or the second level down of the JSON that's coming in. And it will build the appropriate to JSON and from JSON methods for it.
But again, they're reading from maps, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, really just from maps.
I would never recommend. There's another thing people do. This is probably not for you, Roberto, but from beginners, they always take those JSON objects, those raw maps, and then they use them in the UI. They'll use their like maps and just look at the keys in their UI. And the problem here is now every single time I want to get the name, like that key from my data structure, I'm using a name string everywhere across map. Now, if I rename that field, or it gets deprecated and changed to title or something else, I now have to go edit all across my application where I use that. Okay, solve that problem. I can make a global string variable and use that everywhere. It's just you just break encapsulation. There's so many. The idea of making a model object is to give you control and structure over your data, right? Like
and worse, I'm going to say every map lookup is nullable.
Oh,
so you have to do all that extra checking every level that you do it on, because you're looking up in a map that may be anything. It might be that a name string isn't in there.
I was going to say,
and you have to account for that.
The other side of this is JSON always is too dynamic, right? So it's a map which is dynamic because inside it could be a null, a true, a false, a string, or another map or another array. So it has to be dynamic by its nature, right? Now, the problem here is then every time you run that, get that, let's say, that name key out of the map, you then have to say as string or treat it as a string. And if it's not a string, it will crash something, right? So one of the reasons we moved that processing of JSON to the models in the back end is that you can detect when there's failures in the JSON data stream and do it when and tell the user when they load the data, or do it when they're loading the data, rather than just anywhere across your app all breaking, right? So anyway.
Yep.
So let me be clear, Roberto. So the whole thing around dynamic, one little thing, hovering around dynamic is because every single time you read a dynamic variable, you have to then let's say take a step back. Every time the compiled Dart code has to read a dynamic variable, it has to confirm its type. It has to confirm it's not null. It has to treat it a certain way. And if you don't have things like, let's say you want to invoke a method, let's say .read, there's a read function on a dynamic, right? It does that at runtime. It has to go check, does this object have a read method? Then go invoke that read method, and then it has all these different sort of exception handling around that. There's a lot of processing and overhead that takes place because it's dynamic. However, at compile time, if you know there's going to be a read method, it doesn't have to check there's going to be a read method because there's always going to be one. You don't have to check if it's going to be null because you can always say it's not ever going to be null. And you can always know the type up front, which means you don't have to do type checking or anything like that. You always know it's going to be that. So when it comes down to like the performance of your code, dynamic will slow your code down. We know this because Dart 1 was all dynamic and it was slow. Right? That's it. There's honestly, in fact, there's a great article. I will put it in the channel for everyone. There's a great article on the official Dart Medium around this.
While you're looking for that, I'm also would like to say that I see so many people just go, well, this dynamic as this type. The problem is that's a runtime exception if that's not the type. if you're not quite sure of the structure that's coming at you, and or maybe it could be variants of things, just use an is tree. Okay, is it an array, or is it a list? Is it a list? Is it a map? And that way you can actually take different code branches based on the real type that showed up at the time of the actual fetch.
Okay, I found the article. I'm going to bring up a screen. This is the article. This guy, Jay, he works on. I'll put the article link in the chat. He works with the Flutter team, and he talks about like Dart's typing system here, Dart 1 versus Dart 2, and so on, and explains that this simple method here, get age of an animal and return the animal's age field, right? That I'm just going to briefly cover this, right? It does talk about the structure of how it's unsound types, Dart 1. That is all of the native, and you don't have to understand this, but that's all the native machine code that goes into just doing those 2 lines, essentially the declaration of the function and the 1 line inside the function does all of this, right? Now this, if you notice, enter frame, initialize spill slots, check the length, debug steps, check the typing, whatever it is, right? Now there's second compilation through Dart 1 brings it to this. Now the blue and the red is to indicate what bits are prologue, what bits that's like the bits to start a function in the CPU, and then the red bits are like error handling and exception handling and stuff like that. So at the beginning here, you'll see check class. This is a comment, by the way. So what's happening underneath in red is actually checking the class. So that code has to run just to check it. Then the actual code that the function actually contains is that 1 black line. That is move basically what's in the age field into the result. The rest of this is all management around doing that 1 line. The fact that you have to do all of this to do 1 line, that's a lot, right? There's a huge expectation there. Anyway, the article goes through it, but if I skip round down to the very end, this is what now is produced by Dart. 2 lines. Read the object into a register, read the field into the result, and return it. That's how nice the new compiler is, right? This just shows you what they've done with null safety and with strict typing and everything else, like what you can really do with the compiler, right? Knowing all that type information up front. So yeah, I highly recommend if you're into this stuff, read the article. It's pretty heavy, so yeah. I'll completely off topic from the original, but there you go. That's dynamic. There you go. Right, we're sharp now. Right, moving on. Let's get some more questions. Reba, nice one. Hey mate. What is the best practice for video calls in Flutter? Is there a plugin for WebRTC? I know there was some stuff around WebRTC, but to be honest, I've never used it. The thing is, AV is hard. In short, AV is hard. So let me basically WebRTC. I'm sure Randall will be back in a minute. WebRTC is one of these things that covers video, audio, and networking. These 3 things are hard, and then altogether, it's even harder, right? Like your video drops out. What do you do? Do you have to reconnect? Do you have to do this? Your audio, your bandwidth drops down. How do you start recompressing the video, the audio? Like huge numbers of problems in here, right? So the idea is that if you can get away with it, use a library. It's that simple. Don't try and if you go use the raw APIs for capturing video, the raw APIs for capturing audio, and you do this and you have to do the networking, it will work, but it'll be very fragile, right? Like you're making an app in itself. If your app is a video call app, maybe you want to do that. Maybe that's what they want, to have a really nice, fast, reliable. But yeah, walk on the shoulders of others, as it were. I just searched WebRTC, and there you go. Flutter WebRTC. I don't know how good this is. It's got 486 likes, 97 popularity, a high
110 points. 110 points is good.
And 12 days ago, so it's kept up to date. It's sponsored by Stream, so I suspect this has been used.
Stream sounds like it'd have an investment in RTC.
Yeah, I mean that's their kind of thing, right? But so there you go. Look,
right.
AV on Android, iOS, web, Windows, and Mac, and working in progress on Linux and embed. That is brilliant. Data channels.
Wow.
As well alongside, so you can send data like chat alongside. Screen capture on web, iOS, and Android. That is amazing.
Wow.
Unified plan. I don't know what that is. And simulcast is streaming to like external devices. Media recorder. I don't know what the warnings mean, but I think that's just so you can record locally to like an AV file. But yeah, so that looks like it's really good. I don't know enough about this. Cloud original author.
I wonder if you
Wow,
can hook it into a.
bunch of contributors, including Nash here.
Yeah, I wonder if you could hook that into a Jitsi, like a hub. That'd be interesting.
So yeah,
Wow.
it looks like that's got some. That's a good one to check out and go with. I don't know their own like little organization GitHub here. Flutter's
Yeah.
VoIP WebRTC related solutions. There you go. Oh look, they've even got server, demo, SIP, cool keeping.
Oh, SIP. Oh, that would be handy.
Yeah, iOS cool kit. Oh wow. Okay. So yeah, they've got like a bunch of stuff in here. Like interface, demo. They've even got a server. I like that I did that. You could
Cool.
run your own. Look, there's a demo server. Run your own server and send and receive SIP calls and text and stuff.
Yeah.
There you go with web. So that.
So you're telling me now I can call into the stream?
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah. Hey, Scott. Welcome
Hey.
back.
So okay, let's carry on here.
Yes. We have
where are we?
7 questions and 30 minutes.
Why people said Flutter
So go
isn't
fast.
just for web?
Because
okay.
they're trying to build an entire website and they shouldn't be.
This is not shouldn't be right. Like the problem here is it's fine for web as a overarching technology, right? Like that's not a problem. People say it's not good for websites because from a website you want different things from an app, right? From a website you want it to load quick, you want it to work with SEO, you want it to. There's a bunch of other things that you want it to work with, right? Whereas if you're using Flutter, it has to download a bunch of like the Flutter rendering and Skier, Canvas kit. There's a bunch of all this kind of stuff going on. So there's an upfront cost to that, and then on top of that, it's this notion of a single page site, right? Like it's all being run inside the client. And this is web app space. There's plenty of other libraries out there that are JavaScript that are just as heavy, right? This is not a Flutter thing, right? But they're used for web apps. However, I will say that you can go right now and use web dev. So if I just open this up quickly, so there's a package as part of Flutter. Part of Dart. Let me bring this up on stream. So it's called web dev, tools.dart.dev, and this allows you to do web development using Dart. This has been around since decades. This has been ages. So it talks about here how you run it, and that's all you do: pub global activate web dev, and then what you do is you can do. There's like a web dev create, if I remember rightly. You can go read up the instruction. There's actually a web page for it on dart.dev. But anyway, learn more about using it here. Yeah. Oh, that's not what I want. So,
which unfortunately still says pub global, which is no longer valid because it's pub.
Get started with web apps.
Pub.
There you go. I'll put this in the chat. This is what you probably want to look at. Is this what you want to look at? Yeah. So is web only apps for a multi-platform apps this is them just trying to push Flutter, right? But here, this is a web page on the right. If I hit run, so you're not seeing that, are you? Let me pop that in the chat. There you go. So this is the page I've just put in the chat. Get started with web apps. And as you can see here, import Dart HTML. Here's an iterable of things to do, whatever it is. And then the main function does for each one, runs this method and adds elements on the screen. Here's the HTML with a to-do list. Here's the CSS. And if you hit run, it runs it. There you go. So this is Dart code running, essentially using JavaScript stuff. I won't go into it in your browser, right? This is standard web dev stuff that you can do, and you can build entire websites with Dart. There's no literally you don't need Flutter, right? But then again,
and those things are all talking directly to the DOM that this is running in.
Yeah,
which is nice.
So Dart pub global activate web dev. There you are. Dart create -t web simple quick start. Yeah, so there's anyway, and then you go web dev serve, and it starts up a local web server, and then you go to the local web page, and there's your Dart app is running, and then you can do whatever code you want, Dart code you want, to edit a web page and bring things up and do stuff. And there you go. You can build a website in Dart Super simple. There you go. You can do it. The problem here is you don't get any like you don't get any like navigation management. You're all going to be using directly the DOM and directly the Dart HTML. So if you go to the Dart HTML package, if you go to api.dart.dev, you'll see. In fact, I'll just bring it up here. Just hang on. Let's move on. We'll move on after this. So you got api.dart.dev, and over here, Dart HTML. Anything on web on the left there, you can use in your website. So SVGs, you can load SVGs using the browser's SVG functionality. Web audio, WebGL, JavaScript, here's HTML, and then all the stuff that the HTML libraries give you, you can use. So you can call console and do console.log and all that kind of fun stuff and write stuff out to the browser. Anything you can do in JavaScript, you can do in Dart, and it's all in here.
I would like to address the other half of the question that I don't think you've answered yet, which is there is this initial load that has to come when you visit a Flutter web site that's basically downloading, is it Skia in WASM?
There's a bunch of stuff, the framework.
Right, yeah, the framework has to get downloaded. And that makes that initial hit slow, which people hate because of SEO and all that sort of stuff. So there's that problem. There's also the other problem in that your code to go from one page to another is not outputting ahref equals, so you don't get the proper SEO in terms of your whole layouts.
Yeah. So you would have to have all the search engines would have to know specifically about Flutter to make it work, and then Flutter would have to reveal that information. It does do accessibility. It does do a pretty good job, but it's complicated. Anyway, so back to the point. If you did it with Dart, and you still want to continue Dart for your website, you can go do that right now with the web platform, and it will load quick. It is the same. It literally would produce the same JavaScript you'd write by hand, but no one's built a. So there was it Dart Angular Dart, which was built by the Dart team. It's no longer supported. That's a kind of package you can use, but no one's actually built like a replacement for one of the other JavaScript-based front-end tooling systems for in Dart. So someone's going to do that. Be my guest.
Well, Angular Dart's being supported by the community now.
Oh,
and it is actually coming up with new releases, yes.
I did not know that. That is great news. There you go. Use Angular Dart.
This is what I know as a Google developer expert. Yeah.
we should get Mark Thompson on here for that.
Yep. Tom Markson. Yes.
Tom Markson. Mark Thompson?
Yeah. Wow.
Texan.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes by Mark Texan. His name is Mark Thompson. But
yeah, okay. Next, let's do it.
Why is Dart's implementation regret so slow compared to JavaScript?
Ooh.
I'm not sure what you're seeing there.
Yeah, it's pretty fast to me.
In fact, it uses C code to do it, so it's actually probably faster. I don't know. You would have to have some specific use cases, and the Dart team would want to know. I would say I'm gonna caveat this. I reckon you're testing this in debug mode.
Yes, that is a lose.
So you want it. So Dart has different running modes, and debug has a lot of overhead to it, which means your regex is going to be slower. JavaScript only has one mode of running. That's JavaScript, right, in the browser, right? So you get a lot more. Like you can do profiling and step-by-step debugging, a bunch of other stuff inside of Dart. So what you want to do is do a Dart build, whatever it is, assuming you're doing web, because you're doing compared to JavaScript, so it'll be Dart build web -- release. That builds your release version of your website, and then you can look at the performance comparisons of that and pure JavaScript. And that's what I'd say you look at first before you start making tickets and issues and things. But yeah, look at that first.
7 questions, 25 minutes. Let's go.
We can do it. We can do it.
Wait. I thought we had 7 questions.
Yeah,
we have 7 questions.
Get
6.
through
Sorry.
in whatever. Anyway,
yeah.
How can I create a page flip animation with PDF? All pages like playbook in Flutter that animate. Hey, that animation built by Simon. How can I create
the cube you were showing?
A flip animation with PDF?
Well, no, you did the book flip animation like 2 years ago.
Yeah. No, so that works by capturing the widgets. So just use the PDF package we showed earlier to put a PDF page. It actually has a PDF page widget, and it'll capture the output and let you do it like a book. There you go. I don't know what to say. Like, It's perfectly possible. So there's also let me bring this up on the screen. So we go to pub.dev and search for PDF renderer, I think it is. Oh, it's not that one. Native PDF renderer, that's the one. So this here, plugin name is republishes PDFX. Oh, okay. So we have PDFX. I like it.
Ooh.
Render and show PDFs on web, Mac, Android, and iOS. This is what you want. So basically, this, as you can see here, so this is not about like using native widgets. It uses the native platform. This uses the built-in decoders for PDFs built into iOS, built into Android, built into the web to render these as images, right? And then what happens is you actually have this PDF controller, and then there's a look, I'll find it now in their example here, like next page, animate to page, all this kind of fun stuff. What you actually can do here are PDF view, and there's showing actual page numbers and all page count. No, there's actually a way of just rendering a specific page. There you go. PDF view, render a page render, whatever this is, right? I don't know. You go dig it out, but basically you can render, you can just like put a widget in that renders a page, wrap it in my animation, and you'll get the page flip. But then you're going to have to say, okay, once the page is flipped, now show another different widget behind that. So it's all possible. Work out the logic. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it, water boy. That's from Little Nicky. I think it was a water. No, it's from the film Waterboy. Anyway, right.
Probably Waterboy, yeah.
Yeah. There's he does Adam Sandler films. He does that in all the films. That same guy. I forget his name.
Maybe. Yeah.
Can the guys please talk about performance enhancements and system design for large-scale projects with multiple domains? I mean, that's so vague. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's
we could talk about it in general.
University course, Rikus. Come on.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I could like just. Okay, hang on. Let's break this down. So multiple domains. You got more like I guess you mean like model domains, like as in like business domains, like domain name. Like domain means a lot of things. I assume you mean like business domains, large scale projects with multiple business domains. And you're talking about the performance and system design between them. Multiple packages. There you go. Use multiple packages. Monorepo might be a good way. Multiple repos, whatever. You can use your own little pub server and have like your packages hosted internally in your own business, private VPN or whatever, however you want to do internal network. If you're talking about performance, profile your apps and see what the performance bottlenecks are. I mean. Yeah, I mean, there's performance in lots of aspects. Compile time performance, build performance. Yeah, I don't know. There's yeah, I'm not sure I could speak about anything specific. I mean, I think everyone's just going to hold their hands up and be like, okay, right. Out of personal preference, what is your preferred CI/CD provider in general? Which do you use the most? I've not got really a personal my for Flutter. My love is with CodeMagic because they were the first true Flutter specific provider. They have tailored their service to Flutter and Dart. They were the first one to do web, and they're the first ones to do everything. And they Martin Jarrett and the team at CodeMagic have been really good to the community, and they've been right in with everyone. So that'd be my personal preference. However, go use, is it Circle CI now have Flutter? Literally all the CI providers now. App Circle, that's the one. App Circle, Bitrise.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of them.
App Circle is so easy. I used to do demos on App Circle where you can set it up in 10 minutes.
Yeah, and same as like all of these have like this like stuff to set up really easy. They've all got like options. Like the nice one I like about CodeMagic is the YAML stuff. So you can like put your build configuration into your repo, which is really handy for tracking. Like,
you can do that with all of them. Yeah. The nice thing about App Circle is you don't have to do much setup. You just go bing, 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 and it has all default settings. But you can go in under the hood and change anything you want.
And even like GitHub Actions, you can do CI/CD with that. So
yeah.
As you can see, we have a consensus.
In GitLab, no, there's no consensus at all. Use whatever works for you.
Exactly. It's like use the right tool for the right job. Just wherever, choose one, stick with it.
And sometimes the right tool is the one that you can move fastest with.
Yes.
Just don't use GitX everywhere.
Oh,
did I say that? I'm sorry.
What was that one? FastPath? You can use FastPath with
GetX.
GitHub Actions. No. I'm just saying another alternative is to use GitHub Actions with Fast. Is it FastPath?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
No, it's not Fastlane.
Fastlane. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of like different mechanisms and things, right? Moving on.
As you can tell, we all use CI/CD so much.
Yeah.
It's too many options.
We know where you're supposed to. Yes.
Ben, quick follow up.
First, you got to have tests. I don't have tests.
Randall just got fired.
Quick time follow-up. FYI, real-time unit testing is definitely a thing and not as crazy as it sounds. Check out nCrunch. I'm just trying to find a Dart equivalent. Oh no, we're not saying that. But it. And Visual Studio. Yeah, that's a different. I see where you come from. Are you coming from Xamarin by chance? so that's all a possibility. But what you're dealing with there is probably one integrated solution, right? And I don't think there's an integrated solution at the moment for real-time unit tests in Dart, but it's definitely worth looking at. I mean, I go raise and if you can't find anything, go raise an issue ticket on the. I can see that being a really good feature for the plugins in the IDEs, so they could really integrate with the IDEs running tests and seeing a little progress indicator and gold sort of bar. So raise an issue ticket on the plugins repo. I think the plugins repo maybe on the main Flutter repo, tagged as labeled with the Flutter plugins, and explain the problem and explain what you're looking for. Show nCrunch, and the more information you get into that ticket, the better it's going to be described for them to pick up. Right, moving on. Scrolling to a widget in list view.
Got it. DuckDuckGo. Scroll to a list view widget in Flutter. Click right there.
Whenever you want.
Boom, boom. 175 upvotes, so they must be doing something right with this one.
So that's the built-in feature, which is scrollable. If you look at the answer, click on the link in the answer, the top link in the answer. So this is the actual method. So on scrollable, so let me be clear. Scrollable is the base class that's used by all of the scrollable widgets in Flutter, right? And it has a thing you can do ensure visible, and there's an example in that Stack Overflow thing. However, if you want to scroll to a specific entry in a list, then there is a separate package for that. Is it scroll positions? Scrollable position list. Yeah, that's the one. Let me just steal the screen here for a second. Yeah.
And I just searched it.
Well, anyway, scrollable position list, and this is by google.dev. It's not an unofficial Google package. No, this is just maintained by not official Google products. These are just dev packages, right? Anyway, scroll position list lets you have a controller and then say scroll to index 150, and it will nicely scroll down nicely or jump to, and it will do all that kind of fun stuff.
And I see the next question coming. How do I know where my widget is? So here's an interesting one. Can we? Yes, but I wonder, is it possible to scroll to it by key?
Yes, I mean that's how ensure visible works.
Okay.
But the problem here is it's this thing where people want to know how far down is it to know how many pixels to scroll down to, and the answer is you don't know, because you have to lay out every item above that item to know what position to scroll to get to that item, and that's the problem, right? That's the big problem. That is unknowable because you don't want to lay out everything. Let's say you want to go from your widget is the 10,000th item in a list. You don't want the engine to lay out and process 10,000 elements, right? That's just ridiculous. It would take forever, and it'd be really bad performance if you had to. It would probably break, to be honest, right? Now, the point here is to do this type of scrolling. What scroll position list does, it says it starts scrolling, and if it doesn't find the element in a certain amount of time, what it does is it does like a what we call a warp, should we say, and it just resets the 0 position of the list to being a certain place, and then says, okay, from this point on is this list item onwards. And this allows you to kind of fake that you've scrolled to a position. And it's what happens when the velocity of the scroll gets to a certain point that you can then jump down to a position. I mean, technical stuff. It's really amazing. Anyway, the point is you don't have to care. Just use a library and it makes it work. Next question.
And this one actually is the same as the next one.
What is your go-to code architecture folder structure implies? We've done all this. We've done all this in the beginning. Go to the beginning of the video. We spoke all about it.
Did we? Well, okay, we did some of this, yes.
Well, architecture. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
That's true. That's true. It's just like what's the best
management.
State management. Yeah,
we did all that at the beginning. But the point here is, there was also every stream, like who was it? Andrea
Basotto?
Andrea.
Yeah, he did that. Andrea Basotto. Here we are. What's the best? Yeah, I'll put this in the chat. Here you go, and then I'll share it on the stream. Why not? There you go. So he did this project. What is the best folder structure for mini and larger Flutter apps? Feature first versus layer first, and he has a whole thread here talking about all the variations and why you might do one thing over another. And then he goes on to his course, and he's got like published an article on this as well. There you go.
And the thing is that you might want to package similar things together, such as packaging that question with this question.
Same question.
Basically, yes. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
So yeah. Okay.
Oh, that gets us down to one question, and we have 13 minutes.
So should we try and demo this? So see if we can make it work.
Oh, okay.
Well, see if let's keep the chat going. Any other topics for conversation in the chat whilst we're
down to one question. So ask the question now.
I think you can answer this one, Ran.
Carefully. That's positioned.
There's a
right?
widget called positioned
that you put in the stack.
If you in a stack, yes.
But the point is, you never want to do this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're not making a responsive app if you say position it at this position, right?
Right. Yeah, you always want to use things like columns and rows and flex material
boxes.
and layout builders, so you can figure out what the overall space is. Not media query. Let's just keep saying that until people understand. But there's you don't want to have, if you're ever dealing with X and Y, unless you're doing a custom painter, in which case that's fair game. But if you're just talking about widgets, trying to put them around, no, use the tools that make it responsive.
Yeah. Yeah, because as soon as you lock yourself in, now it gets a little weird because I almost personally, and it may be a bad thing, but when I'm working with a stack, I really prefer a line over position. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be some performance enhancements to doing one to the other, but unless you get a really heavily structured, really heavily nested hierarchy, I don't see there being a problem doing that. So what I'm saying there
but the thing is the positioned works in pixels and aligned works in fractions. No. Yes.
You can do it other ways.
Okay.
But the point here is you can do top 0, bottom 0, and it's going to put it in the top left, right? Mm-hmm. So top 0, that's left position. 0. Yeah. But you're not. Again, I'm not dealing with pixels. I'm just saying I wanted 0 from the edge, right? Which is also now doing alignment. So if you want something aligned to the center, left, top, right, bottom, you can use position, no problem. If you then add an amount, you're saying had in by that dip amount, that pixel amount, essentially, right? Which is a different problem entirely. Anyway.
So I'm sitting here trying to help answer questions and talking to an agent at Expedia at the same time.
Nice.
I've been stuck with them for an hour.
If you're doing stuff with a custom paint, I strongly suggest that you read the entire protocol of align, offset, and size, because they can deal with converting things even like polar to rectangular. So you never have to remember it's the sine and then the cosine. You don't have to think about any of that. You can just simply use the appropriate constructors. It's really great to look at those three.
Should we try and do some live? Should we try and do some live coding?
Oh well, do we have time? We got 9 minutes. We got 9 minutes, and we have another question already.
We can do this in this. So this is the question we're going to answer. It's kind of one that gets beginners and maybe people like this. So,
but we got two questions.
What the hell? Let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Oops. Sorry, I clicked that twice.
That's right. Are we getting my screen?
Yeah, let's hide that.
Let's make this really, really big. Right.
Hide. Hold on.
So literally, I'm just going to start an app here. So we're going to void main, run app. This is called Flutter from scratch. Fine.
You don't have a shortcut for all this?
I probably do, but I'm just going to do this. Right? Say my app, and let's move that to my Lynn. That. Okay, so now we have a one widget app. And inside this, we'll do a material app, and we'll get rid of that chat mode banner. Give it, let's give it a home screen of a piece of material. That's going to have a center widget and a text widget saying hello, and that can all be const. Yay! Right, let's run that. This is, can we run that? Run. So that's going to take a second to build. So why don't we answer another question whilst it builds? And it's the first time build. So yeah, let's see. Can we use Flutter for 3D, like procedurally moving the children of a 3D asset raycasting? Children?
Let me make another banner. Another week, another 3D.
Right.
Yeah, we had a 3D question earlier too.
What?
An interesting fact, though, really, if you missed weeks of the show and such, check in the playlist, because we're answering random questions like this every single week, and so many of these come up. Questions about state management, questions about how do I structure my app, questions about can I do 3D in Flutter, questions about how do I do SEO in Flutter. These are every single week. You can go anywhere in the playlist, click on any Humpday Q&A, and get the answers to these.
We don't mind answering it over and over again, but we'd rather have the time for other new questions.
I think I'm going to go back in the recording, and I'm just going to make a video.
You FAQ for this.
We could do some clips, right? We could do some clipping where we kind of take some clips, upload them to like a Humpday Q&A clips playlist of just like, here are your questions, here are the common questions, here are the common answers. That might be handy, actually. People might like that. Anyway.
It takes some work, but yes.
That's the problem, right? It takes work. Anyway. So before we get back onto this, so can we use Flutter for 3D, procedurally moving the children of a 3D asset, raycasting, etc.? And you've named several things there. You can use Flutter for 3D to a limited degree as a 2D library. You can do 3D perspective matrices and 3D, move your widgets around in a pseudo 3D space. I'm working on a 3D rendering engine at the moment for Flutter. There you go. That's probably what you want with this. And it does support shaders now, still to a limited degree, so you'll probably be able to shortly do all your 3D stuff that you ever want to do. There you go. Right, moving on. So here we have an example at running. And what we're going to do is, so this person's question was about how do you do routes and deal with routes. So I'm going Navigator 1 here, pure beginner stuff. So first of all, let's change this out for a scaffold. Don't need to, but and we'll give it an app bar with a title, and that's going to be hello.
Hello.
Why have I got an error? Why have I none? Yes, it's const. It's fine. And there we go. Now we have our app bar, and then on my home screen, I want to add a bottom navigation bar, and this can just be bottom navigation bar with let's do that. Let's just do a bottom navigation bar. Then this wants items, which have to be bottom navigation bar items, which have a requirement to have an icon. So we'll say icons. Want to name your favorite icons, chaps?
Home.
Home. Let's do home. We have a home widget. Yes.
Send. Oh, is it send? I forget what it's called.
Send. Let's go. What, home. Let's see if there's a send. Send.
No.
Send. Yes, there's a send.
Okay, good.
And we're going to go for a refresh.
Mail.
One more mail. Is there one for mail? Let's have a look.
It's got to be. Yeah. There you go.
Cool. So now we have those. Let's format that. And in fact, you know what? We're just going to put the icons on there. We don't care about anything else. Let's do that.
Yep.
There we go. Refresh. Oh,
and red screen. Lovely.
Right. They want a label. Does it need a label? Apparently, every item must have a non-null label. Then why not make it mandatory? I'm gonna have words with someone about that. Right.
I would just blame.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you
need
somebody. You need somebody on the Flutter team to answer your emails, though, to do something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, we're not related to the Flutter team in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
we are
don't
just
work at
community volunteers that happen to be
they are
really
nice and they
excited
send
about
us
Flutter.
some really cool stuff, which
Right.
you can't see because the question is up and I'm all covered. So.
And some of us get these nice vests that show that we're a Flutter GDE. That's a very rare thing. So I enjoy that.
There is why I can't see those. Are they there? They are there. Everything's white. Why is everything white?
Because you didn't change the background color?
No, something has forsaken me.
Oh.
This theme.
Simon, you have written apps that have like 2 million lines of code. You're telling me that this is going to defeat you?
It's going to defeat me. I'm just going to be.
It looks like a Hello World app.
Oh my God! What am I doing? I'm doing this wrong.
We have 2 questions in the queue, and we're coming up on the top of the hour, so we might take one more question, but then we're going to stop.
Now, we already have an answer to this. Okay, can somebody make an index with their times?
Somebody
He was here for most of them.
Who? Which he? Simon?
No, Sekras? Sekras?
Oh, okay.
You were here for most of them, buddy. You remember this just as well. You probably remember it better than we do because I can't remember.
He's like, I can't remember what happened last.
Yep.
What are you
who
about?
am I? What?
Where are you? I'm just gonna see that. That's just this is just hurting me now.
He's OCD now. He's going for the full.
It's annoying the hell out of me. Like
yeah.
It's just not set the background color. I'm telling it to the background color, and so am I going to go have to just start doing theming and stuff? No, I can't be bothered. Right. So this is what you're getting, and you're going to have to put up with it, I guess. And do you know what we could? I should have done I should have just gone my first thing. I think I'm running beta as well, so it's probably my own fault.
You didn't pray to the demo gods,
right?
You didn't face east for 4 seconds and stuff like that.
It's always going to be the time when you want it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have 4 icons on the bottom, and we can tap on the 4. That's a bottom nav bar. And if I was to change let's just do this. Let's do just going to do this. This is really shitty, but you know.
Okay, we've hit top of the hour. We're shut off. We've got 2 questions in the queue. We're going to probably answer those.
Let's quickly get this done. So I just want to show that.
Okay, keep working. Go type faster, Scott. I mean, Simon.
I'm typing to Expedia. I'm trying to get a flight.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, here we go.
What? Do you know what?
And Daz, you keep putting these things in. We need use the queue, Daz. Use the queue. Okay, it surrounds us, it binds us, it holds everything together. The queue.
And remember, I tried strong typing at one point, but I nearly destroyed my keyboard.
Oh, it's just so funny.
What happened to Randall?
Oh, we've lost Randall.
What happened? Okay, you put me out for a second.
Right. Are you paying attention?
Why
are you paying
would
attention,
I do that?
people? Come here. You paying attention? Right.
Yeah.
Look. So what I was just trying to get is here is the bottom navigation, and what you want to do is tap on one of these and navigate to another screen, right? So what we're going to do? Can I
can't
quickly
believe
do
it's
this?
taking him this long to do this.
I know it's taking me forever. Like, what am I doing? I've lost my skills. I've
I
lost
better
my
hope your
special
clients
skills,
aren't
guys.
watching.
It should all be just one hotkey. You're not up in
Not
the
doing it
days.
right.
Yeah.
If you're not using your live templates,
Yes.
I'm not.
Then you're using your
in
dead
VS
templates.
Code. In VS Code, you have snippets, but they really are. I'm totally serious. They really are a lot harder to set up than IntelliJ live templates. In IntelliJ, you can do it in just you put the code there, and wherever you want the cursor to stop, you use $ something $. Whereas if you're going to do it in snippets in VS Code, you have to write out JSON.
No. There is an extension where you can grab through a bunch of text and it makes the snippet for you and puts it in JSON into your code.
Right, and they may have changed it, but the last time I tried to do something like that, you still have to pick through the JSON and put all the different little stopping points.
Yeah, that's true, but that's not as hard as turning it into JSON. The turning it into JSON is being done by the snippet snippet creator extension.
Right, but you still have to read through the JSON and pick through it. Whereas with IntelliJ,
I can read
you don't
JSON,
have to do that.
Truly. I don't know why you have a problem with reading JSON.
I don't have a problem with it. It's just a lot faster to highlight something and do $sign variable
$. Away
sign.
my ears. Oh my god.
Anyway, we still have 2 questions in the queue.
Right. I'll answer them.
Can we drain them, or should I tell those people to come back next week?
Just leave them there. We'll get to them if we can get to them. Right.
Okay.
Right. See what you want.
Oh, you're still working on this. Okay.
Oh, shut up.
Let's keep doing it.
Right. So what I'm just trying to set something. I'm just trying to set this up here. So basically, so what we've got here is a screen that will based on the loading index will display a different title, different message based on which the name of the tab is, and highlight that tab. Right. Now what we want to do is when you select that tab, we want to launch that screen. So I think there's an on tab. Yeah, there you go. Int index, and then here I can say navigator of context push. In fact, because this is top level, you actually want push replacement to be more accurate. And then what we want to do is in our route, I made this home route where we can specify an index.
We should do an entire show of context and its uses.
Oh,
like
God,
theme.of context, navigator.of context.
That's more than one show. Anyway, so now if I run this, if I click on the second tab.
And router.
Oh, look. I transition to the next screen.
Oh, look at that. Yes. That's awesome.
Right. But if you notice, there's that the bar at the bottom, it just jumps. It doesn't do the nice animation anymore. Now, if I was if I change this to material builder, I'm going to get transition to the next screen.
Okay.
Right. Because what I've done, in theory, given the constraints, material builder, no, material page builder, route builder. Oh my goodness, come on. Maybe it's not material route. Come on. Material page.
See what happens when he doesn't get fish and chips before the stream.
Funny. Right. Here we go.
And Daz, you're asking about how do I do full screen video without add-ons? If you want to beat yourself up doing that, forcing it without add-ons, you go right ahead. Anyway, I don't think anybody else would even try that.
So here you can see, this is the other problem people say. Now if you look carefully, it's transitioning the entire screen, including the bottom navigation bar and the app bar, which is awful. We don't want that, do we? Right? So these are the experiences that most people have when they first do navigation on with Flutter, right? So what we actually want to do here is to only change the content on the screen and keep the rest the same. So one way of doing this is to migrate out the structure of our screen into a level higher. So it's either change the content inside the app internally, the state, and load the page content separately, or we're changing the entire app. So let me just show you two mechanisms. I'm going to show you two mechanisms to solve this, right? So the first one is one that might work for you, might not. Is there's a parameter called builder. I forget what the parameters are. So the parameter called builder, and inside of material here, and in this case, the child widget is the navigator that that the material app is going to make. It's whatever structure it needs underneath. Now, this obviously does nothing. We're just returning the child. However, now what we can do is if we make another widget down here and call it screen container. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And then what I'm going to do is take a copy of everything in here, all that scaffold stuff. Oops, I want scaffold stuff. Bring it down to here. Don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. Yeah, we'll do this just to show you. So what my scaffold is going to be, I'm just going to fix the title for now and say title. And this is going to take a child widget. And then that is going to be the body of my scaffold. I have a bottom navigation here, which I'm, if we make this stateful, this can hold the state. Again, demo, like, bear with me. Probably not the best way to do this. This is, again, fewest, quickest lines possible, right? And then when we want to navigate, we're doing set state. We've done two things. We want to do this home, but also do set state and set our index so that our screen updates. Then we want to navigate to this other route. That's all we need to do there. Then if we now put the screen container up here in the material app builder, what we're now doing is we're surrounding the top level navigator with our screen container. And our home, obviously, this is going to, if I run this now, we're going to get two app bars and two nav bars, or it's going to crash. This is fine. Like,
or a red screen.
Yeah, this required overlay ancestor. Oh my god, I'm just going to do a bottom app bar. I would say myself the hatter right now. Yeah, we'll do. Do we want to do this? Yeah, let's do this. This bottom app bar child row. Let's just go back to basics, as they say. Children, and then we're just going to do a inkwell. Child. Yeah. Okay. Fuck it. I'm French. Bottom icon button.
That is an interesting.
I'm going to have to step out. I'm going to have to step out. I've got a heart out. So anyway, guys, great show. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved to participate in it. Hopefully I gave a bit of advice that people could use. And See y'all next week. Okay?
Take it easy, Randall.
All righty.
Hey, Simon, somebody has an interesting question. Scroll up to 104.
Hang on. Let me quickly sort this out. Yep. And then
Let this be a lesson, folks. If you're trying to claim airline credit, remember, I started this process before the stream began, and I'm still in the middle of it.
No,
And I am going to ask him about that set state and navigator thing here in a moment.
Yeah.
That's rather curious.
Okay. This is going to be. Right. And
okay, it's now 111, but it keeps changing.
here's how you set up a custom bottom nav bar. Right. Let's just do this. Right. Send. Home send, refresh that, and then have a void on tap. Next.
See, I chose flights for under $1,000, but to use my credit, they have to put me in business class, which means now I have to pay $3,000 more.
Too much info. Back to Flutter.
I'm killing time while you're doing this. Silence is just not good on the stream.
Well, ask me questions about what I'm doing then.
I'm trying to, but you keep scrolling down too far to be able to see that code.
Right. Okay, so finally, just want to put the colors in, and then this is and then we'll see.
Simon, instead of this, wouldn't wrapping bottom nav bar with material have worked?
No, it wouldn't.
And why?
So it's not material that's actually causing the problem. The overlay is needed at the top level. That's actually provided by the navigator, and that's the thing that bottom app bar needs. I could probably wrap another overlay widget around the child in the way we had it before, but I have a feeling that would probably conflict in some other funky ways. So believe it or not, making it quick, because I know how to do a quick bottom nav that's separate, I might as well do that. And, we can move along with our the demo here. So there we go. That's where I wanted to get to. So actually, let me just do one little thing here. This should be really, really simple. Again, I will ship this online, by the way. Everyone can have this code. So what we'll just say here is selected if index is 0. We can do the same thing on the rest in a second. And then down here, have final bool selected. And then this will enable us to change the color based on selection, which is just a minor improvement here. So then in here, we want to wrap our widgets with a icon. We can do so. Since we have an icon on a text and we know what they're going to be, there's no point to doing this way. But if we didn't know what our children are going to be, it's going to be some arbitrary widgets. We probably want to do icon theme, and then specify icon theme data and set the color. And this is basically whenever icon widgets are used, they default to the color from their parent icon theme. And this allows us to override the selected color. So here we can say final color equals, and based on if it's selected, it's blue. Otherwise, it's gray. So we had before. And then we can just enforce that in our icon theme. And I've broken something. Here we are, up here, yeah. And then I want selected here, and this is 0, 1, 2. So restart. So there you are, the bottom nav, which is my custom one. You can see selects and changes color, and yeah, push and pop must be a widget. That's something else we'll sort out now. So so we don't want the inside one, which is the home widget. Now, did you want to look at something quickly? What was the question?
Sorry, I was just.
There's questions in the chat. If you can be reading them,
I have been reading them, Simon.
Why not?
That's the question I'm trying to ask you. Please scroll up to set state.
Well, it came in interactive one. The K's sorry, this one here. This is from S1E. What's the K mean? Global variable contain. It just contains a number. Basically, inside by standard inside Flutter, this K prefix, which is it's not yeah, it comes from iOS, believe it or not, but it's something you don't really want to do is prefix your variables. But this allows global variables from the framework to easily be accessed. As you can see, there's a bunch of them here. And one of them is like toolbar height, and one of them is like interactive minimum distance height. So there's some that probably should use toolbar height, some that you shouldn't use for various things, right? So there you go. Actually, I want center. I want center. I actually want stretch. Go on. What was your question?
It was that question.
That one. Oh.
What you were doing was you were changing the index. And then you were running set state with an index change. So you were changing the index, you were refreshing the widget, and then you were immediately navigating away from it.
Yeah, because I'm not navigating away from it. So there you go. So that's the thing. That's the whole point of doing this. This is sitting above the navigator. I'm just fiddling around with that. So let me also put in here. Not just the icon, but wrap this with a default text style. And
Adnan, your question about lists is much too vague. That would need to come with code, so you're probably going to be best putting the code on Stack Overflow.
Again, I'm just showing you here. You can use an icon theme and default text style to change the descendant icon color and text color based on what's parent. But here they actually have color parameters, which would be a lot more direct and straightforward. So that's what I'm actually going to do here. We can actually do style text style color, right? Like there's no need to do all this kind of weird funkiness above, although you can do this if you didn't know your descendants. Since we know our descendants, we don't need to supply a icon theme or default text style. So just FYI, just wanted to show that to people. Right, moving back. So we've got these two nav bars inside each other because we've got I'll make this text slightly smaller. We've got our screen container, but our main screen is actually got scaffold. So we don't want that anymore. We're going to remove that. We're going to remove that scaffold, and all we want is the body. So we're going to take that out and drop that in. Now, a home screen is just the bit in the middle. So if I restart it, we have our navigation container, and on the inside is our home screen. See this? Home screen, and home is just material color gray center text. It's just the inner bit. So what's going to happen now is if we navigate to a different page, only the center content is going to change. So if I now go up here, the problem with this is if I try and navigate, we get this error. Right? See this error here? It says can't find navigating the context. This is correct. The context that contains this is this one here. But do you see this? It's the one above our screen container. So what's happening? Let me just tell you what's virtually happening here. So if we go back down to where we actually perform the request, where is it here? In screen container, it does navigate of context. Yeah, that's the current context of our state, which is the screen contains context, and then it'll go when it tries to do navigate of, it goes up the tree, up the ancestors in the tree. So then, therefore, the one above that, if we go up above screen container, is material app and what's inside that, which doesn't contain a navigator because the child being passed in is the navigator. So you get around that. You get around that in a quite successful way. So first of all, you need what's called a navigator key. And this is a global key of type navigator state. I'm just telling you this now. You don't have to know this up front. I'm just jumping in early. Navigate state, navigator state. Right. If you look in material app, one of its parameters is a navigator key. And here you'll see the type global key navigator state. Okay, so that's where I'm getting it from. So I'm going to pass that in, navigator key. Now I've passed that in, the navigator that's built by material app will use this key. Now we can send that key on to our widget here. So now our container and our material app both share the same navigator key. I'm just adding that parameter to my widget, to my constraint container widget. Now, using that navigator key, I can request, instead of doing navigator of, I'm going to use the key directly. This is widget dot, sorry, to access the state. And it's dot current state. Eventually. Right. If I now restart, or whatever. Anyway, so there you go. So now send. See that only the center bit changed and it animated just in the center, and all my like splash animators on the bottom nav bar remained, and they didn't get cut off, they didn't change, and only the content is changing here. Now obviously that's doing the material animation. It's not very, I don't know if you can see that. It's not, because there's not a lot changing on the screen, it's hard to see. What I could do, actually saying that, is if I just wrap my wrap my center in a stack, and then behind that in the stack do a placeholder, and just a placeholder widget, and then we'll do fit stack fit expand. And this will basically make a placeholder fill the screen. And there you'll see like the X and the outside border. So now when I change screens, you might see more of a sort of a content shift. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's very subtle. But that's the built-in animation. Obviously, we could do fades. We could do like slides. There's a bunch of like animations that we can add to that, so I'm not going to go into that. But however, you notice the title doesn't change. Somehow we need to get the title into our container. So one way of doing this, one way of doing this is to make a, let's see here, a builder in my title, and then I can say what is the actually, no, I'm not in the. Actually, there's a few different ways of doing this. I don't want to like. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole here. Let me just check something. So you can do like a state observer. You can make a state observer. You can make a navigator observer, navigation observer, and I could see when the pages change, go request for that route's title and put that in the top of my screen. But now what I've just done is I've made a one-page app, which is not normally what you want to do, right? there's other ways of so this is just one way. Okay. So now what we can do, this is, you normally want a top level navigator for things like pop-ups. If I was to make like a dialog or menu pop-up, it would pop up inside of my gray box, inside of my content. So this is one reason this works to solve the problem, but it's not probably the way that you want to do it. Okay, the bottom nav bar is fine, but what we can now do is if we now take our screen container out and drop it into home, what we've done is it's still the same thing as it was before, right? But now the navigator surrounds our screen container. So this is back to square one, and I've just made it so it looks exactly the same. But now when I change, I'm navigating away from my original. Whoops. Are we back? Yeah. I'm now essentially navigating away from my original into a home screen without my screen container. Okay. So let's take this. Let's take a step back here. Hopefully everyone's following this. I know there's a lot to take in. So I'm going to get rid of my navigator key and go back to how I was, because now I'm inside the navigator in the tree. Again, there's a lot of terms here. This is recorded, so at least you can go back and take a look. So I'm going to drop away the navigator key out of this, since we don't need it anymore. Our screen container is just that, a screen container. So it's just like a widget. So I'm going to take it out here and put it inside home. Home is what we're loading up. And now home is going to have that wrapped. There we go. And then I can do something like title, labels, index again. Hopefully people find this helpful and interesting. So any questions in the chat?
Let me see here. Let's see. There's one.
Yes, you can use generate route and go router, and I do use that, and that's not a problem. But then for named, so generate route is mainly for named routes. There's reasons to use them, reasons not. I'm not going to go into it now. In fact, I did a talk called Navigation. One of my very first talks. I think that was before I did Navigator 2 as well. Yeah, so I did Navigation at Flutter Europe, was it? And Navigation after, I can't remember. I've done a couple of talks on navigation. Anyway.
And there is another talk on Go Router given by somebody who knows a little bit of something about it. His name is Chris Sells. He's the one who wrote it. And it's right here on Humpday Q&A. Just go back into the archives and find the video with Chris.
So what was I saying? Yeah. So now what we've done is now go back to where we were, pretty much. So when we navigate, the entire screen changes, right? And now I put the title in as well, just to be nice. Now we don't persist the correctly selected item anymore, because that state is now maintained. You can see the state here. That's maintained by the widget on that screen. But when we change screen, the new screen starts off with an index of 0. So there's something we can fix there. So we can either pass in the starting index. So we have an initial starting value. So we say this .index, and then in our init state, make this late. And then we can say index equals widget.index. And that allows us to set an initial index. There's plenty of ways to do this, right? But there you go. But again, look, that app bar is just jumping around like something horrible. So there's also another thing that we can do in our container here, and that we can wrap our app bar itself in a hero. Heroes kind of animate between screens, and they need a tag. So we're going to call this app bar. It says, why you error? Hero can't be yeah. So it's because it's in a preferred size widget. So we have to do. We're gonna if I remember right, we're gonna make a little workaround around that problem. That's the one. I'm just showing you lots of different ways of solving this. Like there's tons, and depends on how you're structuring your app, right? Like, oh, you can't do. So basically, a scaffold needs a height for the app bar. Reasons I won't go into it. So we just need to give it preferred size. Anyway, so we've got a hero called app bar now around our app bar. And then, oops, where is it? Around our bottom navigation bar, we can wrap that. Wrap with hero and give that a tag of bottom bar.
Okay, Simon.
Now, hang on. Now when I run this, look, they stay. I have an error, of course. Of course, when I want it, they.
This is what happens when you don't sacrifice a chicken before doing live coding. And in the meantime, it is half an hour over time, and yeah, unfortunately, I've got to go.
Okay. So, well, anyway, we actually don't need that.
You all have a wonderful time, and I will see you next week.
You're going to head off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll yeah, go on.
Okay.
You head off. There you go. So now the bottom bars stay where they are, and hero across. So they are actually changing widgets, but it's very subtle. But that's another way to deal with this. There's another couple of ways. I mean, we can pick this up if anyone's interested. This will always be something we can pick up. Another stream from now. Right. Let's see how we go. Right. Oh yeah, this size from height. Thanks very much. Oh, so Randall's back.
I snuck back from my other meeting, and I'm just going to say, let's stop this show. We're done.
We're way over target here. But I think we can do some live. I think we can do some, not so many questions next time, some live code next time if everyone's interested.
Yeah.
There's plenty to be explained.
Well, we have a lot of interesting topics. We have a lot of interesting topics that we could build entire 2-hour shows around.
Yeah, I think we should start.
Maybe we should start planning those and go, let's talk entirely about state management, or let's talk entirely about architecture or
I'm not doing one about
something.
state management.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not state management. Anyway, bottom.
Or why not to use getX? I could do 2 hours on that.
Hang on, bottom nav. Oops, bottom nav.
And navigation's a big one, you know. So even if we don't get guests, I really hope we have a guest next week. But even if we don't get guests, I mean, we have a bit of expertise between the three of us, so you know.
For anyone that wants it, the code that I just wrote is now on a gist.
Okay.
And it is going into the chat. There you go.
Hey, we did a good show. I was happy.
Yeah, isolates. We talk about isolates. We could talk about all sorts.
We talked a bit about a lot of things. This is the great thing about this show is the AMAs go all over, you know?
Yep.
I love it. 45-minute talk and an hour 15 of code.
It's the other way around for us, though. I mean, we did like nearly 1 hour 45 on questions, and then we have 15. We've done 45 on code on top of that.
Right. So, I need to get back to my client, so I'm going to go do that.
We get back to our day jobs.
Yeah, I have a day job. So, and Simon, good to see you again. Hopefully see you next week. And I will certainly be available for next week. So let's do it.
Subscribe, follow.
Subscribe, click on, positive, thumbs up, whatever all of the things are that you can do with the channel. Please do that.
Also follow Flutter.com, COMM. That's the Flutter community.
Yeah,
on Twitter,
that's
where
on
you
Twitter,
get announcements for this very show. Right, see you then.
Exactly. All right,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye-bye.